27th.
Oh, and the camera.
All right, now the camera's on, gentlemen.
Yeah, that's me. That's my council.
Be appropriate, if you can. You know what's not up is us seeing
Us.
us.
Do we need to see us?
Well, I'll know how much I'm in
I know
the.
what you guys all look like.
Why not?
Let's try to make this meeting quick.
Die on this hill. Not to die on this hill.
Every hill is worth dying on.
I'll die on this
No,
hill.
it's really not. Okay, we're not gonna die on this hill. It's on us. I pushed the button. They can see us. We can't see them.
We don't have delegation, do we?
No, we do not.
You have to see us.
It's just, you know, habit. Okay. So, I call to order the regular council meeting of Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. I'd like to do the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are gathered on Treaty 8 First Nations territory. The long-standing presence of the elders and ancestors of Treaty 8. Through this acknowledgement, we extend recognition and respect to BC Treaty 8 First Nations and all those who call the Peace Country home. I'd also like to take a moment to apologize to the public and council for the flags not being raised on Monday. Lowered, sorry. Thank you, I'm not feeling very well. Being lowered on Monday, I take full responsibility for that. That was a bit of a miscommunication. And so I apologize for that not happening. And going forward, to make sure that never happens ever again, I'd like to put a motion on the floor that staff develop a flag policy. Seconded by Councillor Wall. Thank you very much.
Order, would that not be a late item under new business?
So I'm doing it under the land acknowledgement because I find it's fitting. If you'd like me to introduce it as a late item under new business, I can. But I did it under the land acknowledgement because I felt it was fitting to start the meeting in the right way.
Yeah, but then it alters the agenda.
So
it would be a late item.
I don't know, I'd have to look into that for sure. But I do have a seconder, so it is a motion on the floor, so it can be entertained and voted on. Discussion, Councillor Wall?
I would appreciate it if our flag policy included Remembrance Day, and it wasn't. I understand the importance of Truth and Reconciliation Day, but I would appreciate it if the policy was broader than just regarding Truth and Reconciliation.
Yeah, we currently don't have a flag policy that covers any day, so it would include all those federal days. So Remembrance Day, Truth and Reconciliation Days, and it would just make it so that these communication issues don't happen in the future.
Of course.
Mr. Anderson?
Thank you, Mayor. So what we'll do is we'll have a look. There's a number of things that would be covered off in the policy. One would be for, deaths in the community or otherwise. So that would be all covered off as to when you would lower the flags, including all the holidays and other times.
And that draft policy would be brought back to council to make sure that it's
for your approval.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Ravel?
Attempting to sustain the member opposite's point of order. Although I agree with the sentiment expressed, I think that the procedure piece, maybe we have this discussion on late items, although I understand the motion.
Okay.
But we've kind of argued on this discussion. So
it's been seconded at this point in time. I will look into that as well. I wasn't 100% sure of the stipulations. I wasn't bringing forward a report. So had I been bringing forward a report, I would have done it under late items, but no worries.
I do believe that we have to adopt the agenda and then introduce it as a late item, or bring it up under new business. Otherwise, we're completely out of whack. We haven't even adopted the agenda and we're already making motions. So for that reason, because it is
okay, so let's table it and we will move it into late items. Is everyone all right if we table that into a late item? Can I get a second on that? Councillor Wall? Okay. All those in favor of moving it into late items? Okay, perfect. I'm just going to add it right there. I'm going to make it late item 5.1. And then we will resume that motion at 5.1. What am I trying to say? Perfect, thank you. All right, so item number 3, adoption of agenda. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Johnston. Thank you very much. Any discussion regarding the agenda?
I'd
Councillor
like to
Wong?
adopt the agenda with the amendment of adding the flag policy under 5.1.
Thank you.
If we're doing this completely by the book.
Yeah, if we're doing it the whole way, no, I appreciate that.
That works.
That works. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, so then we're gonna move on. I'm sorry if I get you sick. No, I'm good, I'm just sick. Okay, item number 4, adoption of minutes. 4.1, recommendation that council adopts the minutes from the regular council meeting of council held on September 4th, 2024. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Johnston, thank you. Any discussion regarding the minutes? Councillor Rattle?
I appreciate the formatting of this agenda, or the minutes, sorry. I appreciate the context that helped make these decisions. The only small, tiny technical piece was kind of near the end. There's something about October 3rd for Urban Systems making some sort of report.
Yeah, that's under item number 13, administration reports.
Would it not be this meeting October 2nd? I don't know if
Yes.
that's just a very, very minor technical piece.
Yeah, and then my understanding is that the update has been given to Mr. Anderson and that he will be giving us the update presented by Urban Systems to him. But if you like, yes, yeah, we can definitely make that change because you're right, it would have been October 2nd.
It's a very small thing, but
Yeah.
yes. Do I need to make a motion to amend that?
No, we can just adopt it with the amendment.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Councillor Wong?
I also really appreciate the way that these minutes are laid out. I like the context as well, and compared to previous minutes, these are very well put together. I really appreciate it, so thank you to our staff for doing that.
Okay. Wonderful. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of adopting the minutes with the change to October 2nd? Okay, and that is carried. Wonderful, thank you. Okay, introduction of late items, so we're gonna move to 5.1. Motion to have staff create a flag policy. So, seeing as we've moved it here, Councillor Wall, you're still comfortable seconding that?
Yep.
Councillor Wall still comfortable seconding that? Any discussion regarding the flag policy? Councillor Ravel?
Just a tiny piece. So we do not currently have a flag policy. Interesting. I think it makes sense, you know, the standard certain time periods where it's appropriate, and then of course the death of a member of the community. But anywho's, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect, wonderful, I know I'm dying, I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, any other discussion regarding the flag policy?
Should it be a bylaw or a policy?
It'd be a policy, yeah. Okay, wonderful, all those in favor? And that is carried, thank you very much, gentlemen. So public hearings, none, delegations, none, unfinished business and business rising from the minutes, none. So, new business, 9.1.
Park update, grants and funding.
Okay, and they just wanna read the recommendation?
No, recommendation, I see, sorry, it was 9.2. Recommendation that council receives the park update for discussion.
I get a seconder? Councillor Johnston, thank you. Oh, you're just on it. Sorry there, Councillor Johnston. Yes, so, the park update. This has actually been added to the agenda at my request, as many oil and gas companies in the area are currently working on their 2025 budget. And I'd like to get this idea and a donation letter sent out to them in hopes that we can catch them in time, that we can become added to their budgets for donation. We're also going into a lot of the first series or final series of grants. So this opens us up to either the final stages of grants or going into the new year, being able to apply to grants. So what I'm looking for today is a motion to allow myself and staff to draft a letter to send out to oil companies in the area to see if they'd be willing to support a new park update in the park next to the village office. Discussion? Councillor Woodall?
So just for clarification on this project, the funding all the funding for this, you're looking at either grants or donation, right? Not coming out of the tax base.
I'm trying my best to have the whole thing funded under grants funding and, yeah.
Alright, so, if I remember correctly from before, this is about an $800,000 touch. For this part, for this particular,
Only if we went through that contractor
Yeah.
was it 800,000.
so we'll use the number for 800,000 just for argument's sake, so say it's 800,000, we received 500,000 in the donations and in kind. Does that mean that the taxpayers of Coos would be on the hook for the additional amount? Or can the project be put on hold while we continue to raise the funds for it?
That's basically a decision of the council. That's really up to you. Parks and trails and trail networks and all these upgrades have been requested by the public in our OCP. It does state within the OCP that when we did go out to the public consult that they would like to see park updates in the community. That is at the discretion of this council if you would like to do that. The contractor who created this park plan did say that their amount to develop it was 800,000. That's if we went with them. We do have other options. We have actually had our Public Works Department in-house develop parks in the community where once the jobs were done, they actually purchased the equipment and built it themselves. They've done that in the park over on Bassett and the park up in Dokesville. Those were both completed and built by our Public Works Department. The only things that our Public Works Department could not do though is the rubber matting, and that goes under accessibility, where we do have a bit of accessibility funding. So my hope is that rather than an $800,000 park, this would be closer to $400,000 or $500,000. So that's sort of the target that we are looking for, but this gives us a design that we can use to go out for grants and oil and gas, because they're going to be looking for that.
Yeah, and that I fully support that. I have where my hang up is on it and where my issue is on it is if we start diverting tax money to it, because currently right now with our tax base where it's at and our operational costs being higher than what our revenue is, I have a really hard time greenlighting spending that money on a park. Now, if it's all donations and grants, 100% great idea. I have no issue with that. I'll support that 100%. Just like I said, my biggest hang up is the potential coming back and our taxpayers being on the hook for it when we're already trying to balance that budget out and then to have that. So it's just, that's my only concern, especially when we're coming into budgeting season. I know we have some capital money and that kind of stuff to look at. But that would be my only hesitation is if we commit to it, say, yeah, let's go forward with it, which, you know, it's a great idea, don't get me wrong. I just don't want to be at the back end. I don't want to be on the hook for, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars because the funding is short. The funding came up short. Right?
I totally understand where you're coming from. I think my only concern and the thing I will disagree with you on is that if we continue to raise taxes to really not have anything to show for it, because we've already been serving a level of services based on the PRA money, that's going to be difficult on the taxpayers. It's one of those darned if you do, darned if you don't kind of a deal. So I do.
If we're moving to that sustainability, right? And we're not an upside down cake.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
It's something we need to be concerned about.
Well, getting exactly, yeah. So getting that letter drafted would definitely give us an opportunity to go out seeking those funds. And I have done some previous legwork with Energetic, Ovintiv, ARC Resources, and a bunch of different ones. So they do know that we are looking for funding to develop something in the community. And their suggestion to me was to create a letter with the design and send it into the 2025 budget. So that's sort of where that came from. Thank you for your patience, Councilor Ballard.
Okay, so I get the spirit, I get where you're going with it, I get the timeline. I feel it's putting the cart before the horse. This isn't an approved project just yet, and I think that donors will want to contribute to something that's a sure thing. I'm wondering what it looks like as we work to alter it over time. You know, we haven't gone through, well, we're in the midst of the public consultation process and the approval process and figuring out exactly what we're going for. So I don't want those folks to donate to something that isn't a sure thing at this time, right? So I feel it's kind of putting the cart before the horse. The question would be is, what does the approval timeline look like? we've got to consider accessibility, we've got to consider exactly what we're kind of doing there, cost implications. Are we retaining any of the existing play structures and simply adding to it, or is it a full demo and redo, right?
My understanding is it would be a full demo and redo, as the park we currently have is not accessible.
We keep the bench according to this.
We keep the benches according to that, but the park we currently have is not accessible. Yes, Councillor Wong.
My concern with bringing this forward at this time is that we still haven't received answers from that contractor, from the questions that we've asked in previous meetings regarding the park designs. Something I'm still curious about is whether or not this design is accessible to the point where we can have a fence around it with a latching gate so that children with diverse needs won't run into the road and whatnot, because that is a concern of a few
of them, yeah.
Yeah.
My understanding, and we can definitely have that confirmed, is that this park development is within that fenced area. So it doesn't include the fence being up, and then we would just add the latching gate on.
Okay. And
That is a stipulation that we could also put into.
it's not a huge addition, it's to make
No.
sure. Okay, understanding that we've asked questions of urban systems and we still haven't quite received those answers.
Yeah.
So green lighting a project that's already in the air, and they haven't gotten back to us yet. Just, I understand the time crunch here with the funders, but I do think having that extra information would be helpful. I'm not opposed to the park. I'm just, yeah.
Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. So, this is great dialogue, and this is our upcoming budget meetings, strategic plan, meetings coming up in about a week or two now, I have to look. Great discussion to bring that forward to where it sits and what council's thinking for future planning. One of the things you should be thinking about, though, if it's $800,000 or some fraction thereof, your procurement policy would have to be triggered on that as to what you do. You go out to tender. I'm not sure, I apologize, I'm not sure on this project where we're at on that. I'd have to talk to the mayor, but where we're at on planning, public input, sounds like there's still some questions out there about the design, am I right?
There's
In terms of the function of it, that may have to be flushed out to get an updated cost as to what everybody wants.
Well, the biggest issue that we had is that we went out for the drops, and the problem is that what was brought back was far too expensive for the community. This was the cheapest at 800,000. The highest was at over 2 million. We could not afford that park at that point, and so that really halted the going out for public consultation process because the numbers were so inflated, and it was a real struggle to put those numbers with that contractor in front of the public and not have it completely be shot down. I've reached out to other municipalities, Taylor, Dawson Creek, who just built a brand new park in Kin Park, and their parks were nowhere near the amount of money that was being asked for us to build these parks. At that point in time, we sort of stopped working with the contractor that did these drops and started looking at doing it more in-house, which is what led to the conversations with Public Works and how I found out that they actually have built parks in the community before, quite a few of them. And so it's been a bit of a process, and yes, at this point in time, it's just trying to catch that funding window while we still can.
Yeah, so if I may, Mayor, so when you say the contractor, are we talking a consultant, or are we talking a person who actually builds it?
So my understanding is that this was the consultant that was going to go out and then hire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was Urban Systems?
Yes.
And they just cherry pick a contractor, or is that?
We would hire them as the consultant, and then that was their cost of covering all the work. So it was the jobs and the work included. Yeah. Councillor Ravel.
In summary, I believe that we're in the midst of the approval process. I think there's still some unanswered questions that we have to flesh out so we have the best product for the community, or the best service for the community. I absolutely get the sentiment to go out and receive funds, but I want to keep these partnerships and these relationships strong, such that they don't end up putting money towards something that isn't currently approved. if I
So,
may.
okay, so then I guess what I'm going to need from council then is some direction. We only have two options. We can, one, put all three of the park concepts with all the costs of what Urban Systems would charge the public in front of the public and hope to goodness they'll vote on one of them. Two, we hire another consultant to get completely brand new mock-ups done with new costs that are more relevant to the community that will cost around $150,000, which we've already spent on these mock-ups.
Can't
And
send these out and get quotes on people building us a park?
And then take those, and then we
And
can
then
approve
at
a
least
quote.
we got some dollars to go by.
Then we can
If
approve
they'll
a
come in
quote
at
to-
350,000 or something.
well, can we do that, or
Why
is there
can't
a
we?
public consultation piece that council's looking for? That's what I'm trying to talk about. I don't want it to sit stalemate. I'd like us to be able to do something with it. We did pay money to get these drawn up. They're great drops, but the price is exorbitant for the community. So I do, yeah. And so I guess I'm looking to find out if you guys are wanting public consultation or not. Councilor Rabble.
I've always advocated for public consultation in regards to this process, poster boards and a public meeting and the like. Anywho, I think there's still some unanswered questions. I think we're in the midst of it. We already have a wonderful foundation. We have 3 proposals. My interpretation of this is because we've paid the contractors for these renderings, the village now owns these renderings and then can disperse them as needed. So we can take this foundation of good work and we can now, we need input from the public. We need to know about, the kid who might this and that, the person who wants to walk their dog there, the person who wants this and that, the person that was a part of the original play structure, yada, yada, yada. So there's a lot of really important stories that need to be heard before we move forward with this, because we don't want to invest a bunch in something that might not be the ideal fit. Let's make this the best fit, and then once we've determined what looks like the most reasonable fit for the most number of people, and then we can approve it as a body after this consultation process, then we look out for funding. And I know that will delay the timeline. I absolutely get the sentiment to say, hey, let's match it with their cycle. But this is a cake that hasn't even been put in the mixer. The ingredients are in the boxes still. And so only when the cake's in the mixer or in the oven can we start asking for money, is my interpretation of the process. I absolutely get the sentiment though.
Councilor Wall.
My last comments would be, I think it's a wonderful park. We don't know how much it's gonna cost. It could be 100,000, it could be $1 million. So that's the part that I'm leery on at this point. So I think if we went out and did get some quotes, we're not beholden to those quotes in
They
any
took all
way.
winter to put these quotes together.
Yes, we do. We have a lot of time to get these quotes together. We can be asking. We know we're going to be building a park next door. That is something we know we're going to be doing. It is something the community has asked for. We just don't know if it's going to be exactly this park. This is a good place to start. Right?
That's why we've already, as far as I know, we've already done a public consultation and they want the park. So I think if we get the quotes, at least we got some dollars to go by, and then we can say, look at our park's gonna cost $400,000.
So, Mr. Anderson, if we were to send this out for quote, how does that normally work?
If I may,
Yes, please.
so if the intent is to award something, then they will bid and expect someone to get work. Okay?
Yes.
If it's something that you're just trying to reach out and say, listen, give me a ballpark, this isn't a tender, what would this be? But the minute you ask for 3 quotes, then the intent is there to award something.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so you gotta be careful there, because they believe, because you're going out for request for quotation, that they believe they're gonna get some work out of this. So I think,
Just
just,
to give us a good enough quote.
yeah, maybe, but I'm hearing around the table, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I apologize, I've not been part of any of this process, so I'm learning along as I'm hearing. It sounds like there's, if I'm understanding you correctly, there's still some work to be done in deciding what this park is gonna finally look like. You've got a good concept plan, but do we all agree that this still needs some work to focus on what it's supposed to look like, or is this going to be the end all be all? And then we can work with it from there.
So how would we figure out what the park is going to look like if we don't use these models without going out getting new mock-ups done?
Well,
That's my concern.
I'm not sure, and I haven't looked at what the design, other than this drawing. Urban System, did they have a report that came with this? So
A very expensive one.
I'd have to read the report and find out the level of detail that they, and maybe you could help me out here. Is it sufficient enough detail that someone could give you a good price on it to put it together?
I don't know.
Yeah, so that's something I would look into, and come back and probably, these are all good ideas, but come back to maybe council, what's kind of a timeline as to what this might look like and the options in moving forward. And funding letters could go out based on something that you all feel comfortable in moving forward with.
Okay.
My suggestion, I believe we're in the fine tuning phase. We have the big ideas like, yes, we want trees, yes, we want trails, yes, we want seating, yes, we want an active playground, yes, we want it to be inclusive and accessible. We've got the big concepts. Now we need to do the work of fine tuning. My suggestion therefore would be do a 2-week period. I know, I want to see public consultation. My suggestion would be throwing some poster boards at the library, at the post office, at our services in the office here that would entertain having some poster boards with sticky notes and get some ideas, get some feedback, and listen to the stories on the ground, and then cap it with an evening where we have an open house and people get some good public input. It doesn't need to be anything fancy, just in the community hall. It's just us, we just collect stuff. We're not paying external people, we're just taking time to hear the stories of people who will be utilizing this for the next 30, 40, 50 years. So fine tune it, then go to, then approval process, then tender.
Councillor Will?
So, like, great idea, like, if I remember correctly from the report, though, it doesn't give us like an itemized breakdown of it, it's just a general concept. Coming back to the idea of public consultation, I know we want to kind of step the timeline up on this to hit this year's funding models and that kind of stuff, but at the same time, if anything worth doing is worth taking time to do it properly. When it comes to our budget this year, potentially looking at going out doing public consultation already when it comes time for budget season, right? Is this something that we can bring up in our strat plan and then piggyback on top of our budget planning for this next year? So that we're not doing multiple community outreaches. We include this with community outreach because the community is notoriously low turnout. So instead of paying for 2 nights to be in there, we're in there for 1 night. We include this with our budget rollout. And then it gives us the opportunity for staff to research and get the information that we need. We can take that back to the public and say, hey, look, this is kind of what we're looking at approximately for cost. This is this. We can get some public feedback on that, and then we can see if the public's comfortable with funding it that way, or get that feedback that we want. We're not paying for staff to go multiple nights.
You know what I really like about that is that when we do our strategic planning session regarding the budget, we're going to be budgeting for specific things. Some things to the economic development of the community, some things for the infrastructure. We could just do one whole night where we cover everything we're thinking about budgeting.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was getting at.
Yeah, I really like that.
Make this part of the strat plan. So like if we set this aside, if we table it until a meeting, give staff a chance to dig out some information, give you a chance to get some more of that information.
Yeah.
Bring it back, and I think if we sit down as part of our strategic planning and look at our budgeting for this next year, I'm pretty sure that between the 5 of us and the help of staff, we can get a solid plan to bring together to the public. And again, it comes back, we've made sure that we've weighed our ingredients, we've mixed them thoroughly, right?
So we're all about cake.
We have a well-baked cake when we go out, well-baked cake when we go out to the public.
We need to get a bakery in town.
Honestly, we're so hungry. I'm really eating all of
Kurt's
it.
got me thinking about
Okay,
cakes.
so then, can I, I'll make the motion to table this then for now, and then, to bring it.
Table it or bring it? Do you want a motion to?
Well,
table
I
it?
want to table it and then bring it to our meeting following our strategic planning session.
That would work fine.
Yeah. Okay, seconder, thank you, Councillor Wall, I appreciate that. Any other discussion on tabling for now? Okay, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, that works. All right, item 9.2, it's kind of squished at the bottom there.
Recommend that council approve staff to proceed with the submission of a UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Grant application of $32,000 for the replacement of the fire department pagers and an iPad.
Seconded by Councillor Whittle, thank you. Any discussion?
Make sure they're Canadian pagers.
Sorry, did we skip ahead?
Nope.
No,
It's 9.2, it just starts on the bottom one page and finishes on the other.
You might have an old agenda, maybe, we've got.
Inventive pad site
Oh, yes.
proposal.
You have an old agenda.
Hang on.
Here you go.
We had a thing happen
We had to
tonight.
redo one.
Could we pass that?
There's some on the table.
I'll give you this.
Oh, sorry, I don't wanna take the image from corporate office.
Yeah.
But can we pass that back?
Here,
I
give that to
apologize,
him.
folks, I was,
That's so funny.
I have this from, a couple of days ago and whatnot.
Yeah, we kinda had to,
Hey,
Updates to the
alright.
okay, alright. And that was seconded by Councillor Wall, am I correct? Yes, thank you.
No, I think it was seconded by.
Oh, yeah, this is a move.
No, you're
Oh, right, I just changed it.
One of them seconded that, Councillor, Mr. Stavro.
What are those W people?
No, yeah, one of those W people.
Okay.
I think I recognize Councillor Wall, but I could be totally wrong. Yes,
fine with it.
Councillor Rabble.
Alrighty, so, the UBCN Community Emergency Preparedness Grant sounds like a great option. The report is brief and succinct, and essentially is just saying, hey, let's see if we can upgrade our stuff. Worst case, we got the old stuff and we'll just keep using it. Sounds like a great plan. I'm all for it.
Councillor Whittle?
Yeah, so, just so council knows, the Poos pagers, some of them are from like the early 2000s, if not late 90s. Then they do have a mix of some newer ones that they've augmented over the years. But when I was with the fire department back in 2014, they were just starting to move into some new pagers back then, and that was over 10 years ago now. So, yeah, it's definitely, with the new changes and the new technology, I think it's definitely one of those things we look at. We just, yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? Yes, Councillor Wall?
First.
Oh, no,
I
we're,
apologize,
like, you have my
Councillor.
coughing.
So in regards to these new pagers, I think it'd be great if we got them, but we're not obligated, I want to ask the question, are we obligated to purchase these new pagers if we do not receive the grant?
We are not.
Well, then I'm in the flag for the grant.
Right, nice and simple.
Well, that's something they probably just upgrade as they've been upgrading in their budget.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous and carried, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to correspondence. We only have two things, so it's nice and small.
Council received the Ovintiv pad site proposal for information.
Any seconder? Councillor Johnston, thank you. Discussion, Councillor Rebel.
What's the, oh, there we go, now there's a map.
It took me a minute to find that too.
No, that might be upside down, I was
Okay.
the wrong way.
I apologize, as there is now a map included in this, previously it was just the order.
Took me a minute to
Yeah.
find it.
So it's south of Coos and
It's like a
kind
Red
of
Cross
close
place
by a
or
lot of
something.
the other things.
Yeah,
Well,
was that your only concern?
Well-
Previously, yeah.
Not much we can
Well,
say,
we have some of the best standards in the world for oil and gas. However, there's always concerns about H2S and flaring and whatnot. And there's already a lot of wells there. So I guess this is them letting us know, basically, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna host their own consultation process with the community and receive input and whatnot through those consultation processes.
As far as I know, yes. They've already done a portion of that as well. Mr. Anderson?
Yes, thank you. You're right, the first agenda I noticed didn't have the map included. We included it this time because I thought it was pertinent.
Thank you.
And because of the outside zone is getting close to our boundary, we were triggered just for notification purposes. If you read the background, they're gonna be drilling up to 3 pads, or 6 wells in this site. There are gonna be some impacts during that. They did identify some noise. There will be some flaring. There is a potential H2S component, so there's some things there that council should be made aware of, but they're well within their boundary by the provincial regulation to be drilling near a municipality, so it's bare bones, but it's there. It's following the guidelines.
Councillor Whittle?
So it's pretty standard, actually. I've had it, in years past, we've had wells actually go through the goose cooping, where I've actually been caught in that 2-kilometer radius, right? And what it is they actually have monitoring equipment generally in that area. Most it's pretty standard. They have monitoring equipment within that area. They would have already talked to all the residents within that area and notified them, and they have H2S specialists usually on hand that if they hit a certain level, that they'll go and they'll start notifying people and evacuating people and dealing with that, and they deal with a lot of their own emergency response services, and they respond to it. So they do have, generally they do have monitoring and testing in the area, so it's actually quite safe. I've been on the receiving end a couple times of the gentlemen when they come to the door to let you know kind of what's going on. So they're really open, really easy to get a hold of and talk to you as well, in my experience. And yeah, I used to do this kind of work, 15 years ago, and where the regulations are now compared to where they are then. It's definitely a lot safer.
Councillor Wall?
I just want to take a second here to thank Ovintiv for actually giving us this map, because according to this map, they didn't have to notify us at all. So, like, we're close, but they didn't have to, and I appreciate them giving us that heads up. And they've also been very good to our community in the past in many different ways.
They've helped do the roof on our Legion. They donate $10,000 a year to our fire hall. They donate to our food bank.
Yep, and the Harvest Tea for the museum as well, they donate to every year.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to keep us in the loop with things like this. So, and you know what, it brings jobs. Maybe someone who lives in Poos right now will have to commute 1.8 kilometers. Never know.
It won't make me laugh, doesn't it?
I think you're sick the same way I'm sick. If I laugh, it would.
Oh, their houses in it, they would have got me too.
Okay, so, any other discussion regarding receiving for information? All those in favor? Unanimous and carried, thank you very much. Okay. 10.2.
The council received Foster Family Month letter from the Provincial Director of Child Welfare.
I get a seconder. Councillor Ravitch too. Okay, discussion. It doesn't really look like they're asking for anything, like there's no proclamation or nothing. So they just want us to acknowledge that October is Foster Family Awareness Month. If council would like to make a motion to have staff post something about it on the website or our social media, you're more than welcome to, but there's been no proclamation included with this letter.
That's one part.
I've known quite a few people that have fostered folks and young people. There are a lot of kids that need homes, and foster parents really help with that. And that is a tough thing to do. Absolutely. It is heartbreaking sometimes. So my heart goes out to all those who foster, and I wish them all the best of success. So it's important to recognize that.
That's it, okay. So just receiving for information? All those in favor? That's unanimous and carried, thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 11, resolutions and bylaws. 12.1.
Official community plan. Recommendation that the Village of Poos Koopy official community plan bylaw number 1053-2024 be given first reading and be sent to referral agencies and agricultural land commission for any comments that they may have.
Okay, a second on that? Seconded by Councillor Johnston, thank you. Discussion? Councillor Ravel?
So this would just be the first reading, and then we go out and basically give it to a variety of different ministries and local partners and whatnot to kind of have the review. And then there's also a mention in here of sending it for a final legal review. Is that legal review between the first and the second reading, or is that happening after we receive it back?
Well,
Just curious about the timeline.
Yeah, so the legal review is a suggestion by staff. It's not something that's, pushed or forced upon. It is a decision that council can make.
If I understand, it's just better to have it looked at and make sure that it's.
That appears to be the recommendation, yeah. Mr. Anderson?
I'll give you a break.
Thank you.
So, yeah, my urban systems helped prepare this report, so there's a lot of preamble there, just to give you some background, but you've already been down this road, I'm sure you're probably more versed than some of the people that are out there, but, yeah, so that, it kind of gives a synopsis of where you're at, so this is first reading, and then we're gonna send it out for referral, as you have mentioned. It's gonna go to the Land Commission, but there's also a list of agencies that they suggest, that it go out to. We could do that in-house. There's the City of Dawson Creek, and certainly a lot of these people were suggesting that should be involved and provide comment. But, you know, if you felt that you didn't want to do that, I mean, there's nothing to say that you have to do this, but it's suggested that you do because the ministry does like the fact that you went above and beyond and got the information that you need, the input you need from your surrounding agencies. So there's a list that we would consider sending it out to. There's a number there. Ministries, First Nations, school districts, Northern Health, and then they would be under the same timeline as of a 21-day. We give them a deadline, 21-day period to provide comment. The Land Commission, as it's indicated there, may take up to 2 months by the time you get their comment back, but it might be a minimum of a month. They might come back. There's very little changes here, as I can tell, and in chatting with the mayor. There's not a lot of huge changes here that I think they're going to comment on. Once we receive all of those comments back, we would then take that information and see if there's any changes. And consider that, the council would consider whatever that information would be, whether we want to change how our OCP is going forward. We would then give the second reading and have a public hearing. Okay? That's as per local government act. To hear any final, from there we get to hear and receive any comments and for final comments or information from the public. Once we've done that, if we now have all our input that we need, it then goes to third reading, and let me read this here.
With no changes.
Yeah, with no changes, it would carry on to third reading, and then adoption would happen at a subsequent council meeting after third reading. So you go for consultation, you do first reading consultation, public hearing, second reading, revisit, third reading and adoption, and you're off to the races. So you might be looking at upwards of a couple of months, I'm thinking, by the time you see this adopted, just to give you a heads up.
So the decision piece for tonight would be doing the first reading, but then also to send it out to these local, regional, provincial partners. Am I correct in that understanding?
That's correct. Yeah, referral agencies. Yeah.
I'm all for a regional approach. I'm all for us all working together as a region. I think it's absolutely appropriate to send this out for a time-limited period for comment so that we can hear from these folks. I think that's really essential. But then the decision on a final legal review will come later and not decided tonight. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it would be the last step we would do after we've got it all done. After it's probably third reading, we would send it out for final review, and then we would go for adoption at the end.
Last thing, I don't mean to hog the floor.
There's nobody else, so it's all you.
No, I'm going to be brief here. So we have gone through this for honestly 2 years. This has been 2 years now. We have gone over all of this. We've had the province force down on us revisions regarding housing and other pieces. So we've had to incorporate that, but we left space for that. Anyways, now we've had a lot of consultation. Now we're ready for it. Then we get some review, but then the public still has a point with that, that night when we have that final session for them to speak their last. So I think this is one of the most important things we could possibly do, And I appreciate all the work that's gone into it, so I'm very excited to move forward with this.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous and carried, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to administration report, CAO report.
Thank you, Mayor. So there's been a number of things that have happened in the last 24 hours. The Lagoon Bank Stabilization Project, we, as you know, have been waiting to get this project going, and it's been hung up with the ministry approval process. Thanks to you folks and the mayor at UBCM, talked to some people and pushed some buttons, and they checked into the status as to why we're not getting approvals as fast as we could. They came back to us and said that in the application it didn't look like there was a sense of urgency. There wasn't an emergency. So we got basically stuck down in the pile. I indicated to them that no, that is not the case, and we're considering this being an emergency, plus the fact that if it gets delayed, it's going to cost us some more money. I got a hold of Urban Systems. What they said was, okay, we need justification in your application that's missing that indicates that it is an emergency. Urban Systems did put together some, what they thought that they had it in there already, but anyway, they put in some more. And as a result, today, which is included in your package on the next page, we've got an order to start work. Yeah, yes?
So does that mean they were preventing us and now we're compelled to?
In what regards?
So between yesterday and today, they said you cannot work to you must work or else?
No, they're saying that if you decide you want to work, you can go ahead.
Okay, so
So-
I read this letter a little bit differently as we're getting like an order to, I'm like, well, what happened in the last day?
This is typical language. When they say an order, it's not. Basically, it's allowing you to do the work. So I will draw your attention to what we're allowed to do.
So we have the permit is what you're saying.
We're having a permit, but it's a form of a permit. It is a permit, but I'll explain to you what we are allowed to do. So we're only allowed to build because they're allowing us under an emergency to take care of that portion of the work that's lining a lagoon bank that's bordering the creek or the river. So out of the 400 lineal meters of bank stabilization and riprap placement, they're allowing us to do, as it says here, about 200 meters from 0 to 0 plus 200. So half the job where the lagoon is impacting the river. I did have a meeting with the Urban Systems and the contractor to say, listen, if this project does not go ahead, what will be the impact of the budget if we do it next year because of delays? The Ministry of Environment had sort of indicated that if we did do it next year, we wouldn't be able to get into it until after the fish bearing season, which meant next August.
The river's dry, there is no fish.
What water?
I know.
Like,
No,
like rockfish in there? Like,
Yeah, well,
Don't
it's-
mention that. Don't do it.
yeah. Anyway, so I feel your frustration. So I asked the contractor. They worked out some numbers, and with cost of living, fuel, manpower, transportation, they have a bunch of subcontractors. They asked them for prices. It was going to be another $250,000 they would be looking for. I asked them for justification of that number. We needed it broke down before I could look at it. But they said any work we could do this year would reduce that number. They now have been told that they can do, you know, a number of works that we could do this year, which they think will reduce it by well over half, you know, somewhere around $100,000 to do the remaining work that's coming up the following year. So I'm suggesting, well, one other thing that's kind of come to light here is we started kicking around these numbers. I was kind of appalled at what I was hearing, but I will tell you from my other connections that I have with projects around the province, they're seeing annual increases in bidding of upwards to 6 to 8% per year, that is bumping up just constantly. The more remote you get in the province, the higher it goes. So it's not uncommon to see increases. Wow, it's unfortunate to have to stomach this. It's going to be, we're tied to it because their bid is only good for so long, and then we have to renegotiate after that or retender.
Alright, so two things. One, I think it's great we got this. I'm not knocking this, although it would have been just as easy for them to give us the whole damn permit to do the whole friggin' job. So now we're gonna pay for these guys to mobilize, do half the job, demo, and potentially come back next year sometime. Do we have the ability, because like this is a crucial thing for the operation of the village. Do we have the ability under the community charter to declare a local state of emergency, tell the provincial government to stick it, this needs to get done, declare a local state of emergency, do the job under a local state of emergency, and then move on before it costs us an extra $100,000 or $200,000?
Currently, we don't have the justification from qualified geotechnical firms that have been looking at all of this to say that those banks can stay there for another couple of years or more. It's not, the level of degradation in those berms isn't such that it would be an emergency per se.
With that being said, if this winter we end up with a larger than normal snow, or we actually get a normal amount of snow, and we actually get a normal fall, will those banks, if we get, say, a repeat of 2016, right, as an example, will those banks maintain through a flood event like 2016 as they currently sit, right? I'm pretty sure after we do the upgrades and everything that we looked at, they would withstand that, but currently as they sit, they would breach if we had another repeat of 2016. And that's where my concern is if we do have another 2016 thing, there's some federal money we can go after, some provincial money for state of emergency and emergency stuff, but again, getting contractors and now paying $2 million to fix something after the fact when it's, like for a fraction of that, we can do it properly the first time. Like I know myself working as a contractor, it always costs more when I have to move in and move back out again and move back in again, right? And it's one of those things that, where does that put us if we do have a big event? Because now it takes our sewer out of compliance. We can't dump raw sewer into the river, and it leaves this entire village without a septic system for months waiting on.
So the issue with that is that what happened in 2016 was identified as a 100-year. So, we could throw out the what ifs.
They won't let us put anything down in Coos Park because of that. So why can't we use that same justification to declare a local state of emergency and actually do it? Or like, what are the parameters that we need? Because this could easily, like if this, like, and I get the whole fish thing, even though there's no water in it. But if that breaches this spring, like we're screwed. Like that's more money than we got in the bank to fix that. And we're still gonna have to shell that money up front to get it fixed and then wait forever for the government to come back to us. So like that's where it scares me. Like it really scares me.
Coming from an engineering point of view here, what happened in 2016 is a 1 in 100 year event. What that means, though, isn't that it happens once in every 100 years. It means that there's a 1% chance of it happening every year, if that makes sense. So in 100 years, it's likely to happen one time. But what we've seen is we are in a historic drought right now in our region, and groundwater does not penetrate into dry soil. So if we do end up with a seasonal year this year, it's way more likely than 1%. I don't know, I'm not going to throw out a number to scare people, but I would say it's a significant chance of another 100-year event. Not that 1 in 100 chance, because it has been so dry. So I think we should be able to do whatever work they're allowing us to do and petition the province on the grounds that we are in a drought, that we know the river is dry, and we are expecting to see an average year this year, but but in drought conditions, which are very likely to bring us back to a similar situation. Reasonable request, or I don't know how this all works. So
I can maybe speak to Councilor Woodall's concern, and it's a concern of everybody on this town. I'm not sticking up for anybody, but the
first 200 meters, and if I had a map here, I could show you.
Yeah, I'm familiar with what.
The first 200 meters is the highest priority impact to those lagoons. The other 200 meters goes around the creek, and it's meant for erosion where it hits the bend. But believe me, these first 200 meters will save us in a real strong event from that sewer leaking, that berm failing into the river.
Yeah,
And that's what these permits are for.
Yeah, 'cause 3 years ago when this came to us, myself and Mayor Beach were on council, we had the option to do just the initial 200 meters, which is the immediate need.
Yeah.
And council at the time, we opted to do the full meal fix and fix it properly, not just band-aid the solution.
So it's indicated to me, if I may, Mayor, it's indicated to me by their geotechnical firm who's going to be out there monitoring this daily by the cost of it. But what they've asked for and what they've given to the province is this is a need from here to here to avoid exactly what you're talking about. So that's a good thing. It's just unfortunate we can't do it all. That's right.
Councillor Rebel?
Okay, so we've got a permit for less than a month to do half the job. And that's the most critical phase of the job.
Well, 30% of the job, but yeah.
Well, half of what the physical length is.
Yeah.
But, okay, so we've got a clear runway for that, which is good. So, is that something, can we actually accomplish this amount of work in a month? What do we need to move out of the way so that that can happen? How many hours a day do these folks have to work? Do we have to, increase the allowable period of noise, right? Like, what can we do on our end to make this runway as open as possible so that we can get as much work done in the next month? And is it even possible that they could get this 200 meters done in the next month?
Councillor Wall.
We've waited 3 years for this permit and they've given it to us for a month.
It's not even a full permit.
And it's not even a full permit. So I don't know why we're debating this. I think that we have to do it. We don't have a choice.
Well,
It has to get done.
there are 2 recommendations that are coming from staff.
Yeah.
So one is that we approve Urban Systems to complete the revised water treatment lagoon bank stabilization construction budget. And then the second one is that Urban Systems be approved to submit a fund uplift application to the village's existing disaster risk reduction climate adaptation grant file to cover the projected construction and budget shortfalls. So we're giving permission for Urban Systems to do the work knowing it's going to cost us more, but we're also going to give them permission to demand that due to the fact that we're not able to get all of this done, that they seek a grant uplift from the province. Mr. Anderson will have more to add to that.
So, thank you, Mayor, and that was going to be the second portion I was going to tell you is, I asked Urban Systems to say, listen, is there an opportunity to go back to our funding partner to get an uplift to unforeseen circumstances, i.e. things out of our control? They did go back and they said, yes, you can get an uplift. The unfortunate part is the deadline is Friday. And it's the end of it. He said it's largely oversubscribed, but I explained to them what they're going through. He said, yes, absolutely, this will comply, but it goes into the pot. So we've asked Urban Systems to get it done, and hence the recommendation that I apologize. Normally this would come with a full report, but this has all happened in the last 48 hours.
Flying by the seat of our
Well,
pants.
it's not like we really have much choice in the matter. It's,
No.
it's either we get our shit together or it's floating down the creek.
Well, it is, I will tell you that there is one more stipulation in here. They're only giving us to the end of October as a window of construction.
We do have one.
The contractor is starting to mobilize equipment this week. Next week, he's gonna start the work. So basically, that's 3 weeks to do the work. He is comfortable, and that's what he feels comfortable that he can do it. I'm suggesting to Urban Systems, their environmental folks, that they appeal to the province to say, listen, give us to the end of November, because you can work in November to place rock. You could do all the soil works in the next 3 weeks, but get this rock work done and any other work that needs to be done. They think we have a really good opportunity. They're gonna know this week to say, can you extend this to the end of November so we can get some more work
It'd be
done?
nice if they just give us the permit to finish the rest of it.
Yes, I agree.
Rabel?
All right, just to step back for a second, the permit is what it is, we've got it, let's do everything we can in this moment. The decision, it sounds like there are two decisions in front of us. One is to allow us to apply for this uplift of some sort to fund this additional cost, but then are we also, there seems to be some piece about increased cost for this to get them to do the work so quickly?
No, the
No.
increased cost will come next year.
Oh,
So-
Come back and finish.
Yeah.
well, let's
Yeah.
see those numbers then. Or do
Well,
we have to approve that right now?
I think my understanding is we need to approve that right now to hang on to the contractor.
I can give you, if I may,
Yes,
I can give you some rough numbers we're throwing around. So obviously, the contractor number, if he does the whole job next year, is 250 added on. If they don't, it'll only be 100, so there's quite a substantial, that number is being massaged as we work. There is reluctantly, there is some additional costs by consulting firms because when I went back to the original report, they were banking on it being I think they said a 5-week project, and they budgeted to do inspection for 5 weeks. The contractor says there's no way that they can do it in 5 weeks, that it's more like 10. So the consulting firms are looking to possibly added costs there. So I'm asking them for what that would look like. Then the project itself, when I read the file, after it was budgeted, with all in with engineering, was $300,000 over budget last spring. I think you were aware of that.
Mhm.
So that's in there as well. We were suggesting to take all of these numbers and put it into a funding, which I will bring to council and let you know what that number looks like. But if I can get direction to go ahead, because the deadline's Friday, I can apprise you of the number at the next council meeting, but it's going to be substantial.
Okay, well, I'm gonna put the first motion on the floor about the uplift, because that's one we can all agree on. That's what's due by Friday, the urban system goes out. So I put the motion on the floor that urban systems be approved to submit a fund uplift application to the village's existing disaster risk reduction climate adaptation grant, file number LGPS-10106, to cover project construction budget shortfalls. Can I get a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Woodall, thank you. Councillor Rabel?
So that was the federal government grant that gave us two something million,
4 million, yeah.
2.4 million. And so that's saying, hey, we're short, let's top this up.
Yeah.
Okay, so Urban Systems is the contractor who has all the information to, has the right people to make this happen. Anyways, is there an additional cost to the village to request them to perform that service? Are we having to pay them more?
Yes, that's an additional service. It'll be done this week. They're gonna try and bang this off in 2-3 days and put it all together, but there will be a cost for that.
Councillor Woodall.
So I'm pretty sure that Mr. Anderson's probably already done this, but is it possible to massage that consulting company a little bit? Because the consulting company really should have sat down and talked to the contractor before they put numbers in front of us. And the fact that they bid it at 5 weeks and it turns out to be 10, that sounds like something the contractor should be eating, not us. Because if I tell a customer it's gonna take me 6 weeks to do your job and it takes 10 weeks, I don't come back to you for more money. It was a 6-week job, it took longer for unforeseen circumstances.
Or the consultant, the middleman.
Right, so is it something that they can massage that number a little bit, because everybody's sticking their fork in this pie and there's not a whole lot of pie left? Like,
There's no pie
we're putting holes in the bottom of the pie pan right now.
Well, I'm starting to feel like we're becoming a bit of a piggy bank.
Yeah.
Councillor Rabel.
The motion that's on the floor, what is the cost of Urban Systems, of this contractor to do this proposal increase uplift work in the next 2 days? What is the cost and what are we voting on right now?
Probably less than
Mr. Anderson.
You're basically giving us permission to allow Urban Systems to develop the cost, like what the shortfall is gonna be to complete the project, because we're way way over budget on this, based on what we know.
This will be the second time though we've paid them to come back and tell us how short we are on money.
Mhm.
Like it's getting frustrating,
Mhm.
cause like we approved this project 3 years ago with the $4 million budget, I think it was a $3.7 million budget, is what we originally put it as. And then a year later, they come back to us and say, hey, it's gonna cost more. All right, understandable, it's gonna cost more. They've come back to us subsequently now every single year, and it's costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars more each year. And I get capital project, like big projects they go over, this isn't a capital project, but bigger projects they do go over and there's overruns, but something can be said for the management of the project that we consistently have to go back and keep topping up and, told 5 weeks and then it's 10 weeks and this and that. Like it's getting frustrating, to say the least. I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels frustrated with it, especially staff has to deal with this on a daily basis, and then you have to listen to us complain about it every 2 weeks. So it's
beginning to impact the relationship, that's the problem.
well, that's the thing, is it's like, in all honesty, it's leaving a really sour taste in my mouth, and I'm sure there's other council members as well, that with this particular contractor, it's leaving a really sour taste in our mouths. To the point where, we're sort of exploring other options, or looking to see what else is out there, and it's how, disturbing this is. And for the project to continuously expand, and we told one number and a timeline, and then it doesn't happen, is getting extremely, extremely frustrating on a project like this. That if we would have, in the beginning, if we would have taken it to the local contractor that's doing the job to begin with, that's doing it, they probably could have had it done 2 years ago if we would have went to them directly and cut out the consulting middleman, right? Because it's not the contractors doing the work that's the frustration, it's the consultants that keep adding another layer onto it, and more cost, and then they're getting their little piece of getting a bigger piece of the pie each time as well. It's very, very, very frustrating, to say the least.
I hear, sorry, I think,
Okay, so we have a moment. Let's step back. Let's break this problem down. So, why is it Friday? Why this grant was dispersed quite a bit ago? Why Friday is suddenly this deadline come up? Why do we not have enough existing information from this contractor ready to rumble that they simply are able to submit it? Is it because they need to make it fit a certain formatting? Why is the contractor saying, you're short an unknown amount of money, we need money from you because you're short, to go ask for more money? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's break this down. Firstly, why is it Friday? Where did this opportunity come from? Why were we not aware of that? Is it because we thought that this grant would cover everything? Let's break this down. Why Friday? Why is Friday suddenly the date? Where are we getting that information from?
Mr. Anderson?
so it's every, if I may, every grant window, every grant has a window.
Yeah.
And because they have a budget season as well, they've got X amount of money they have to spend in a certain amount of time. And this particular one ends this Friday, that's the deadline. We didn't know about it until we asked. And now the next funding allotment will come next year. So then this is for 2024, 2025, we'll have another offering, we're hoping. And when that comes open, and you know how these grants work, when they open up, okay, we're accepting proposals.
I think, if I may,
Yeah.
I think what's frustrating Councillor Rabel is they came to us last year, or in the beginning of the summer,
Yeah.
and said we were $400,000 over budget.
Why are we a week?
They
before
never
they-
once asked us about this uplift fund, knowing even then that we were $400,000 over budget.
It was not, it was something that was mentioned to say, look into, and they did, and all of a sudden it is available. And
So they've just learned about it as
they
well.
just learned about it
Okay.
as well, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's like some clarity on that, thank you. Councillor Rabel.
How about I ask the elephant in the room? We have a contract with a firm to perform the various engineering, geotechnical, and scientific professional services, including the management and tendering process of contractors. Would this not fall under the price, the cost of the original agreement, why does it cost more money? That's the elephant in the room.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was budgeted for initially, as
Mhm.
part of their initial work plan, to do tendering. And just to back up a little bit, you need, the ministry will not give you a permit unless you have qualified
Understand.
engineers
I
and
understand.
geotech. The minute you're talking about working next to a stream, you need someone there daily monitoring this stuff.
Yep.
And if you don't, they won't give you any work permit. So you have to have qualified professionals. And so that's just a necessary evil. It's part of the project that has to happen. The costing, I hear council, and I can certainly take that back to them, of what I'm hearing. Why they chose 5 weeks when it was actually 10, I can't tell you. Obviously, there wasn't, they did estimates of what it was gonna take to do the work. They must have contacted someone, but I can certainly question them on that. They warmed me up to this, but I said, this probably won't go over well. But I feel it's my right to let you know what I'm dealing with here. But I will take your concerns to them to see what we can come up with.
I think my biggest thing, I'll just, sorry for interrupting, Mr. Anderson, is frankly, at this point in time, they are going to be applying for an uplift that could be upwards of $200,000 to $300,000. Yes, it's going to cost us money. No, I don't think it's gonna cost us $200,000 to $300,000. But I am as frustrated as you are. But we're also stuck between a rock and a hard place. One, we have to get the lagoon done. We only have the permit now, so we can either choose to not have them apply for the uplift and we eat the whole $400,000 cost, or they apply for the uplift and we only eat maybe a few extra thousand of what they're charging us. While I do find it frustrating, and it sucks, absolutely. But I also feel like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and that on this one, we're kind of bent over. Councilor Wall.
So this is the first time we're kind of bent over by this contractor here, or this consultant. So my concern is, why, yet again, have they passed this information on to our staff to have to bear the bad news to us? Instead of coming in and talking to us directly, because it's not our staff's mistake, it's not the contractor that's working on the lagoon's mistake, it is their mistake, yet again, that is going to be costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars. At what point do we stand up and say no and fire them? Honestly.
Or ask for a meeting with their managing partners and have them come in and actually put them on the carpet and make them answer the questions, because it's not, like, our frustration is being directed towards Mr. Anderson, and it's not. It's not, and we're not frustrated with you, it's the
Points
situation.
taken. I'm taking points down, but I'm leading with you here. So, the bottom line is, there was no way to know that the length of time it took to get this approval, and it still looks like we wouldn't have got it this year had we not pushed the emergency side of things. Why it's taken that long is beyond me. Had that gone through, a lot of this we wouldn't be talking about this.
Too bad we couldn't claim it was a state of emergency, like, I don't know, a year ago, when they called it a state of emergency.
Yeah.
Well, just wait until it starts collapsing.
I can definitely voice, I knew that this is probably going to be the mood in the room.
Did give Mr. Anderson a very large head up about how we're all getting sick and tired of this
And
conversation.
I'll, in chatting with the consulting firm, and we're talking about numbers, the contractor, my hands are tied on that. He's only obligated for a certain window for his bid to be, valid. After that, he doesn't have to, honor any of those numbers, but he's willing to sit down and work with us, and if we can get the work done, we can reduce his cost by $100,000 or more. So I'm hoping we can do the same thing with consulting firms, so we'll see.
Councilor Rebel.
I have two parts to this, so two questions here. At what point do we have this conversation closed, right? Just because we don't know it, of the sensitive nature of this discussion. Then the next piece is, so, we have been told you might run out of money, so give us money to maybe get more money. But we don't know how much, but give us money. That doesn't make any sense. I can't possibly vote for that. Right?
And hire professionals to keep the project on track, that's what off the right.
I do not understand why this is not covered under the existing agreement. That is my view.
Councillor Wall.
I don't understand how we're over budget when no work's been done. That's the other thing of this, not a single shovel has been put in the ground on this thing, and we're already $500,000 over budget, and then another $400,000 over budget?
Well, they completed some work the first year, they cleaned the weeds, that's.
They cleaned the weeds out. Okay, that was going on from the
No, not all
previous
the weeds, just some of
administration,
the
just some of the weeds. That's been going on for years. I don't understand how we're this much over budget. I think this is on the consultant, this is not on us. We hired them to get the permit and to get the project done within a certain time frame. It's not on us that they did not start working and that they did not get the permit and that they did not push it and that they're asking for more money. Yet again, they haven't done their job. They have not done what we've hired them for.
And we approved $31,000 earlier this year for them to actually put all this in place, and like just for administration fees, we approved over $31,000.
They're administering this project, not us. This cost is on them.
Would have
I'm
been
saying
cheaper
no.
at this point if we administered ourselves.
So gentlemen, I understand your absolute frustration. So I'm gonna call the question to the motion that's on the floor. The motion is to allow Urban Systems to submit for a fund uplift to the application for our existing disaster risk reduction climate action grant file to cover the project's constructed budget shortfalls. So that is the motion that is on the floor. I'm going to call the question and we're going to vote.
Question just for them to apply for an application.
Yes.
With the additional cost of that
With
application.
the
Like, what
addition,
the
yeah.
cost is.
Clarification. How much will this cost? How much will it yield? Are we able to, what is our shortfall? How much will this cost?
Yeah.
What is the potential yield you've already answered, but
Yeah.
without those numbers, I simply cannot agree to writing a blank check here.
Mr. Anderson?
I think, and full marks to you, if I was in your position, I'd wanna know what I'm dealing with as
Yes.
well. So maybe you can approve it, because understand that, if we can get some money, this is gonna cost us more regardless.
Yeah.
It's gonna cost us. If we can get some additional money from a grant to offset that, I think it would be prudent to do that. I would highly recommend you go towards that. But you could maybe put a condition that pending, you approve in principle to move ahead, pending, costs, no, I'm just saying.
I'd like to put an amendment. I know it hasn't been seconded. I don't know what's appropriate.
No, it was
No, it was
seconded by
seconded.
by
Okay.
Councilor Wall, so if you'd like to.
I propose an amendment that the currently hired contractor proceed to apply for this uplift at no additional cost.
I'll second that.
I'll third it.
I'm in.
It's been seconded.
Fourth.
That's pretty much the only pushback we really got.
I'm in.
I do not understand why it costs more money.
If they expect more, if this consultant expects more from us for the nothing that's been done,
I agree.
we should, and they expect extra money for this, we should honestly be looking for someone else.
Okay, so we're gonna be voting on the amendment that was just put forward by Councilor Rabble, that the consultant, do the fund uplift application without any extra cost to the village. That was seconded by Councilor Whittle, thank you very much. I'm gonna call the question, all those in favor of the amendment? Okay, and that is carried. So then, the overall motion needs to be defeated, because that one didn't have it's the motion as amended, so now the amendment.
Yes.
Mr. Stavro, can I get you to read what the new motion will be up to council, please?
Oh, no pressure.
No, he's good. I know, I have so much faith that he can do this.
So the new motion will be that Urban Systems will apply to the government for funding uplift with no additional costs to the village.
Thank you very much. Awesome. Okay, so
That's
that,
the amendment.
that is the amendment to the motion. So now the motion just includes that that we are approving Urban Systems to submit the fund uplift application to the village's existing disaster risk reduction climate action grant file to cover the projected construction budget shortfall at no extra cost to the village of Pouce Coupe. That is the now amended. Okay, can I get a seconder on the new full? Councillor Woodall, thank you. Any discussion?
Sorry. What's this wrapping up?
So
I'm
this
sorry.
is, so your amendment was voted on
Yes,
and your
it was
amendment passed.
approved, yes.
Now I've read the new motion with your amendment in it.
Yeah, the
Now
motion
it's
has-
one
Oh.
complete, yes.
So we voted on the amendment, and now it's the motion as
Oh,
amended.
okay.
I know.
We really don't usually do that. We just say,
Yes.
yay, we did it.
Yeah, no,
Okay, cool.
That's how it's supposed to kind of go,
And with
so.
this one, we wanna make sure we cross.
You wanna make sure it's across the, yeah. Okay, so,
Before you vote,
yes. They're probably gonna tell us to pound sand,
what if they say, listen, okay, well, you're on your, you send it in yourself. And you missed the way.
Then send it in.
How fast can we write it?
Well, no,
They've got all the information, that's
they've
the
got all the
problem.
background information they need to put together on this, so if they say no, that's not fair, and they would then have to come in and justify that, I would let them do that as a delegation. You might miss out on this opportunity.
Councillor Wall.
I still think that's okay, because honestly, if they say no, then they'd have to come back to delegation and explain why they're over budget and why this has taken so long and why. And if we don't agree with that, we could look for another contractor, and I think we could do it for cheaper. At this point, nothing's been done, and we're 900 grand over budget.
No, we're fine.
This
We're
time
five.
around,
We're only half a
already-
million over budget now.
But we were $400,000 over budget previous, and now 500, and possibly more into next year, and a single shovel isn't in the ground.
Councillor Rabble?
Okay, so what is the cost? Because I don't understand, that's why it's not covered in the original thing, but what is the cost they are proposing? Is it simply their staff's time? And then is it, if they hold all this information, why wouldn't that just require a bit of formatting to submit? They've already done the geotechnical work, the other work, they've already applied for the entire thing anyways. I don't understand why the uplift would require more work anyways. So are we able to receive some context here as to why this would cost money to even submit when they've already created this proposal that successfully obtained this grant?
So the grant application has to have justification as to why it needs to be uplifted. They have to write verbatims, they have to write paragraphs as to why, the reason why it's over. They've got all this justification. They've got to get numbers put together and negotiate with contractors to try and get a number from them. It's a pretty quick and easy one to do. I don't think it's a lot of money. to
I don't
put
think
this
it's
together.
gonna cost us a lot
It's
of
not,
money either.
it's like a couple of days. They've got the numbers there, they've got the justification. I can get the number from them, a ballpark number from them tomorrow. I don't think it's a huge number. I gotta just gotta caution a little bit though from what I'm hearing. I feel and I understand where you're coming from. Even though you're saying that this is drastically over budget and hasn't been a shovel in the ground, well, we haven't spent anything either. So it's gonna be the end of the job, it will be over budget. But after the shovel goes in the ground, you'll be paying for the work that's happening on an incremental basis. At the end of the job, it's anticipated to go over budget, but you haven't spent anything other than consulting fees to tender, feasibility studies, cost estimates, that's all been paid. So, I understand.
Do you want like a range, if it's $2,000 or under, you can do it, or?
Well, okay, the cost though, the overrun, the amount that we're gonna be over on this, because we've been over early spring, it came in over budget by $320,000 all in. We've got another 100 grand here that we think will be the contractor's additional to finish the job next year. And then we've yet to hear from the consulting firm as what their uplift is gonna be. It might be very minimal, they haven't even told us yet.
Gentlemen, my concern, I will be voting opposed to the amend motion. reason why I will be voting opposed is because my concern is that if we begin this back and forth now, one, we're going to miss the window to apply for the uplift funding, which, yes, it may cost us a couple of $1,000s, but we could potentially get $300,000 in uplift funding. Two, we have finally had the permit that we all worked so hard to get while we were down at UBCM, and the more back and forth and the more issues that we start bringing out of the pot or bringing out of the cake or whatever the heck you want to call it now, I'm just concerned that could also lead to a slowdown of work. We've been this has been our focus for 2 years. We all got into these spots knowing that this lagoon was going to be an insane issue. It was a huge problem and it was going to cost a ton of money, but we are all dedicated to get it done. This has definitely changed how we will be looking at things going forward. It's definitely going to change how we deal with our consulting, absolutely. But right now, we kind of have to dealt with the direction we've taken to get this work done, because that's the most important. Councillor Wolf.
Regardless of this motion, work can commence immediately on this lagoon, correct?
Yes,
So work will begin
next week.
next week, no matter what. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that, so it's not dependent on this.
No, this, if I may, sorry, I've spoken too much, I'm sure, but, what we're looking for now is just, we've got a funding window to try and offset some of these projected costs that are gonna be coming in. That's what this is all about. The work, as per the permit, we're plodding ahead. We're moving ahead. Try to get this first half of this done, so the cost will be less next year.
Even if we're gonna go ahead with it, could we still ask for it to be at 0 cost?
Oh, yeah, we could try, but.
Councillor Waddle.
I don't like the flying blind. The cost overruns are supposed to be in the future, not for this month of work, because we already have agreements in place and numbers in place, and we're already within budget, I assume, for this next month. Let's see how much we can get done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a maybe in the future. Yes, inflation happens, and 6 to 8% increases and all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly, I know we're belaboring this thing, but this is an extremely important decision. I simply cannot in good faith vote on I don't know how much it's going to cost, because it's potentially going to overrun by maybe so much we don't know. That doesn't.
Well, we're already over by 3, right?
We're already over.
So whatever it's gonna gain from here on in is just gonna compound on.
Because remember, this started in
We're already over by 3.
At what time, and the question is, why is the contractor not here so we can answer directly? And then also, how recently did we come to know this in the village?
That we were over?
No, that this grant exists, up top existed, and that it was going to cost, all this, how recently was this
That was
conversation?
Monday.
Yeah.
This Monday.
Yeah.
So we think given
It might have been
I think it was
last
Tuesday.
Friday. What day
Well,
is it today? It's Wednesday. That was Monday.
anyways, about
Monday was a holiday.
a couple of
Yeah.
business
Tuesday.
days. A couple of business days.
Yeah.
That's egregious that we've been informed so close to this deadline. I do not understand why this topic would not have been, the federal government must publish these things quite in advance. So I'm concerned about that.
It's only that world.
It's rather bizarre, I put it that way. I don't know what plane I'm flying, how much fuel it has, or where the hell it's going. But I am asked to pilot it, or be a co-pilot on that. I do not understand.
Councillor Wolf?
I will attempt to speak reasonably on this.
Okay.
And I say attempt because I'm not so good at that all the time. So this particular consultant has, in the past, waited till the last moment to provide us with information, so we have to make rash decisions. Last time there was a delegation from them, we were told we had to make a decision in that meeting, or this wouldn't get done, it would cost us an extra $300,000. With no information in front of us, it was a problem. You know, we had to go with this one contractor because no one else could go with that contractor. We had to go, this is a pattern of behavior where we're getting information at the very last possible minute. We can save the day with just enough time, but we're the only ones that can do it because we have the information and it's gonna cost you money. This is the third time this year this same situation's come up, where there's been a problem, they're the only ones that can fix the problem, and oh, by the way, the deadline is now, and you have to go with us, it's gonna cost you money. So,
The last question I have.
I'm not calling for it again.
Mm-hmm.
What even is the proposed number that it would cost to apply? Like, they're talking staff time, they're talking 20 hours, 40 hours, working hours to
Yeah,
do
it
it?
would just be purely staff time to do this. I could get a number for everyone, I could email it off to you tomorrow once I could give them a call tomorrow morning. They've been working on it a couple of days now, but they said they would, maybe, they said they'd get this in by Friday. So,
Honestly, you're gonna hate me for this. I cannot possibly make such a decision with this lack of information and clarity. Therefore, maybe we should have a special meeting tomorrow. I know that's pretty short notice, but in order for me to even begin to think of voting,
How are you supposed to be available for a special meeting
I
tomorrow?
will make it work.
Oh my gosh.
I can simply, right now, I must vote in opposition as a matter of principle, because it feels potentially extortionate.
Yes, Councillor Whittle.
So, I know it puts us in a really crappy situation. Basically, what we're being asked to do is shell out money so we can get more money so we don't spend as much money. I do support pushing back and not being any additional cost to the village, but at the same time, I do understand that, we spend $2,000 on their staff time, we could potentially net 300,000 or potentially a little bit more out of it. So I do get that. Would it be?
We could do a special meeting tomorrow, gentlemen. We could
I'm
table
not
this.
available tomorrow.
Oh, you're right.
Deadline's Friday.
Deadline's Friday, but what my thought is can we go back to Urban Systems and say, hey, look, we want this done at no additional cost because of X, Y, and Z, but could we also, at the same time, in case they're like pound sand, can we authorize Mr. Anderson within our purchasing policies, or under our current purchasing policy, to go up to a given
That's what I was
$2,000?
Well, it's a
Not to
number to
exceed,
work with.
yeah, not to exceed $2,000. Cause there's no way in hell with $2,000.
I'd probably go with 3 just in case.
I don't know, what are your thoughts, Mr. Anderson, on,
well,
because I would like to show that, we wanna show a little bit of pushback to these guys. I think we're all in agreement on that, we want a little bit of pushback with these guys. But at the same time, I totally understand spending $1 to, save hundreds of thousands of dollars, right, so.
So if I may, Mayor, so I'm getting all the feedback I need, to,
All the conflicting feedback?
yeah, to maybe, speak on your behalf to the consultant firm, as to your concern. I'm getting a feeling that it's the cost of putting together this uplift that's concerning, well, other than the overall project cost is concerning. But it seems to be a hang-up of council that the cost to put this portion of the work
It's just
together.
another cost, again.
Every time it's another
The
cost.
fundamental idea of paying more for something that you believe was this drop.
Should have already been in there, yeah.
So I
believe this already is in their contract.
yeah, the idea, well, their work plan didn't identify reapplying for grants and all of that, so it's not identified in there. So they have the right to, if you're asking them to do additional work, they're gonna wanna be paid for additional work that's not identified. I think what the council has to understand, though, in the absence of that, in other words, if they say, no, we're not gonna do that, and another day goes by, and we miss the window, I understand, we're between a rock and a hard spot here.
They do this every time, on
Yeah.
every issue.
Yeah, I agree, it's always the 11th hour, right? So if we miss this window because nobody else is gonna do this, put this together, they have the expertise, they've got all the numbers, they would get it together in no time. But if you wanna have a special meeting, you can certainly do that as well.
No,
You
it's
can
not
delay this until you get, I can get you more information at a special meeting for tomorrow to let this happen.
Alright, this is the last thing I'm gonna say on this topic. As much as the mayor might not like this, I'd like to add an amendment to this.
Well, oh god, another one?
Actually, no, I'll do it as a separate motion. Let's do this
Okay.
and then I got a separate motion. That'll do it as a separate.
Okay, so we're gonna vote on this motion, but would your separate motion change the outcome of this motion?
Potentially.
Well, then you cannot do it as a separate motion, 'cause it's going to change the outcome of this motion, so you.
My amendment's gonna change the spirit of the motion though, so.
Okay, so tell me your
So
amendment.
what I would like to do is I'd like to actually pass this motion as is, and then have a separate motion that we authorize Mr. Anderson to negotiate up to $2,000.
Well, the ceiling.
$2,000 ceiling.
So, if I may,
Yes, please.
what I think you're trying to do is crack it in half. I think we're all in agreement that, yes, it's important to apply for this and see what extra money we can get. Then, okay, at cost or no cost, right? Those would be two separate pieces, basically cracked in half. Because I think we're all for, yeah, sure, there's more money in a pot and it can help cover these additional
Well,
costs.
I get that it's gonna cost time, I think myself included, all of us are letting our frustration cloud our judgment on this decision. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we're splitting frogs here now. When you look at the grand scheme of things, as frustrating as it is, but
Yes, Mr. Stavro?
Just a quick suggestion I've been listening to this conversation, and I do know the contractor, and I have my own concerns about the consultancy firm. My suggestion would be to approach this in a little different way, so that we can move forward with the project. I would say there's a couple of things. Number one, I don't think we understand what all these costs are for. There's all these increases. I'm sure there's some good reasons, and I'm sure that it would be really good for council to be able to meet with the delegation from the consultant to better understand what those increases are for at a later date. At this point, I think Mr. Anderson has done an excellent job presenting this. We're dealing with an emergency. I think the emergency part needs to get done. We first need to move forward with the emergency and basically say, you know what, we're going to move forward with this. But then the suggestion that I would have is to actually invite the consultant on it to come into delegation to speak to council and to basically have the conversation the council has been wanting to have with the consultant. And in whatever forum council decides to do that, whether you want to do it as a committee of the whole, whether you want to do it at a council meeting, a special meeting, whatever it is. But I do think that moving forward at this point is significant because letting the opportunity that's coming up on Friday go would basically take us to a situation where we're looking at the leaf and not the whole tree. So my suggestion is we deal with the emergency and then we actually deal with costs. And again, sorry if I'm out of order, Mayor.
No,
It's
no.
just I've been listening to the conversation for a while now, and I just wanted to make that suggestion.
Well, gentlemen, the motion on the floor is to approach them with the answer of nothing. We're not giving them any extra costs. I can guarantee you that they will say no. I am still going to vote opposed to the motion that is on the floor. Now, if we were to vote opposed to the motion on the floor and go back to the original motion, but amend it to include up to a certain amount of money, would the council be more comfortable in that direction? Then we are putting a number on it.
Should we crack it in half?
What do you mean by cracking it in half?
Well, split in twain.
Well, so I'm thinking that honestly, we go back with that they submit the uplift application on the village's behalf for the lagoon, but that the work not exceed a cost of, because if you deal, right, whenever we deal with legal, if we tell legal we don't want the cost to exceed $2,000, they have staff lower on the totem pole deal with it. Okay, now with that does come the risk that you're not getting the $300 an hour work, you're getting the $100 an hour work.
You still get charged the $300 an hour.
Well, no, it would have to be within the boundaries and the parameters that you've set. That is something you can do, and it will allow Mr. Anderson to go forward with working with them, letting them know that this cannot exceed, because council has already spent enough on this project. If you're more comfortable putting a number on it and you feel more able to vote, then maybe that is the direction that we need to go. We've been discussing this for about 40 minutes.
Yes.
And we gotta move on, guys. Yes, Councillor Rebel.
I believe in the spirit of applying for this up.
Mm-hmm.
However, be it well explained, I don't feel as though the contractor has provided sufficient justification for this cost to do the work, and why there's these additional costs, just simply generally inflation and other pieces. That is why to make a strategic decision, I don't feel like I have the sufficient justification from the contractor to spend taxpayer dollars. That's where I'm at. Yes, absolutely apply for the thing. Why does it need to cost money? When they already have, I believe this should be within the scope of the existing contract. The other foreseen, unforeseen pieces. They applied for the grant originally, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a follow-up to that grant.
Yeah, but it wasn't included in their scope of work. So that's how they legally can come back. It was not included in their scope of work. Mr. Anderson, do you still have a comment?
Just one last one, and I promise I won't say it. So I think our corporate officer eloquently put it. I think there's a lot of angst around this table, around this topic, and I think a delegation of our consultant is needed. All of those questions I think are valid, and to hear it from them is vitally important for all of you to get a sense of where this is going. I will tell you, if we don't get the grant, well, and we may not get the grant, it's going to cost us significantly more. I just know that right now we've got $320,000 this spring, which is covered off by. We've got the money in place. We got a budget. We amended a budget to do that, right?
Yes.
So that's in place. What we're talking about now is probably, I don't know what the consultant's looking for. We don't even know at this point. I'm gonna know that tomorrow, unfortunately. It should have been tonight, but I can't get it till tomorrow.
Okay, I'm gonna call.
Point of order, I didn't make the motion to go past 9 o'clock.
Oh, thank you.
8:59.
I appreciate that. Seconded by Councillor
I
Whittle.
saw that I was waiting for Mr. Anderson to finish.
All those in favor of going past 9 p.m.? Carried unanimously. I'm going to call the question, gentlemen, on the motion that is on the floor about asking Urban Systems to move forward with the grant application without charging us anything. All those in favor? All those opposed? I would like my opposed noted. That was carried. Okay?
Now, I'd like to make a motion that we authorize Mr. Anderson to negotiate with Urban Systems to apply for the grant up to a value not exceeding $2,000.
Seconded by Councillor Will. Just before we move forward, Councillor Johnson, would you like your opposed noted?
Sure.
Motion? You've noted it, thank you. Okay, so the motion on the floor is that we do give Mr. Anderson the authority to negotiate with them up to the cost of applying for the grant up to a maximum of $2,000. Is that my understanding of that? Yes. Okay, that was seconded by Councillor Wall. Any other discussion? Councillor Rabel?
Just briefly, technically, so the previous motion was to do it at no additional cost, but empower the CAO to negotiate up to $2,000.
Yeah, we're gonna hat trick them. We're gonna try to say no first and see how they react, and then if.
We can't send Mr. Anderson in without a loaded gun, right? We can't have him go in and say no, and then we have him push back.
Okay,
if they say
turn
yes,
around.
if he goes in and says, hey, council asked for this, and they say yes, then right on, they can find out that we authorize up to $2,000 potentially when they watch the video.
What does it say? Is this motion
But if they
possible?
say no, right, if they say no, then it gives Mr. Anderson some room to negotiate with that and doesn't shoot us in the foot on
Is
potentially.
this motion possible?
This motion is technically possible.
As long as they don't watch the video before we go to them with it.
They won't see it by tomorrow.
Oh my god.
Okay, so this motion is possible because we are understanding the fact that if push comes to shove and the original answer is no, that it then gives Mr. Anderson a little bit of wiggle room to come back. But it gives him the opportunity to at first say they're not willing to pay. Then if they come back and say, well, we're not doing that, so you're gonna have to tell them too bad, he's gonna hang up the phone, wait a few hours and phone him back and say, okay, they're willing.
I twisted their arm and they said I could spend.
At this point in time, yeah, this is gonna, I don't even know if this is a closed thing or not. Ugh.
Well, even if it is, we've already violated it, so, you know, might as well just embrace it and move forward.
Yeah, no, I think you're okay and open, we're not discussing contracts here.
No, we're not.
We're not discussing.
And this is all in the public realm already.
This is all.
Yes, this has already been awarded and tendered. Okay, so that's basically the plan. It does give Mr. Anderson some wiggle room, but it does ask that he first goes forward by asking that they do it at no extra cost. And I think Mr. Anderson was going to do a phenomenal job to advocate for us after seeing our frustration around this table. I think he's going to come at it with passion and vigor, and he's going to do his best.
I agree.
Yeah. So
Let's go.
okay, I'm going to call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed?
Opposed and noted.
Thank you. Okay. Well, not that I want to keep talking about this, but there is actually two motions that were recommendations that were. Would you like me to still say the second one?
Why not?
Let's keep them.
Well, I thought, funnily, I was like, I'll go with the easy one first, which was the uplift. Joke's on me. Okay, second one is that council approve Urban Systems to complete a revised wastewater treatment lagoon bank stabilization construction budget. So this is where they bring you forward the numbers. Now, what I'm wondering is if we have an opportunity to wait on this one and instead invite them to a committee of the whole meeting at the beginning of our next council
Well, I'll
meeting.
second this, just so we can discuss it.
So, they cannot apply for an uplift until they know what that number is. So what that motion allows them to do is to do the work that's required to update the budget so they can put that number in the uplift, right? So it's actually conditional, it's conditional, that's work that's conditional, but, what that motion was meant to do.
Okay, I read that wrong. I apologize, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, so
You
it's-
laid it out, but I totally.
it was meant to go together.
I
and
interpreted it incorrectly.
Yeah, it was not two separate motions, it was to go together, but,
Thank you.
Well, if we leave the $2,000 clause in there, I'm all right with that.
so basically they're redoing the budget to submit it towards the uplift and also to apprise us of what this project's gonna cost next year.
Yes, Mr. Stafford.
Can I, so just to butt in for a second here, I almost think that maybe we can, for now, do without this motion. If we look at the previous motion, we're basically asking them to do the work. And the way I understand it as a layperson and as a contractor, as a consultant myself, that would actually
Oh, it is covered, yeah.
cover that. So to me, this motion is already, if the way Mr. Anderson explained it, if this motion is about creating the budget basically so that they can submit the application, it's already covered in the previous motion. So we've actually dealt with it, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think you're right.
I think so.
Yeah, and then that $2,000, I think it covers it as well.
I would like to rescind my last motion. Thank you very much.
Alright.
Okay, before we get into the financial report, I have to use.
That's a good one.
Actually, I've got a couple more items on my CAO report, but they won't be anywhere near as controversial. as
I
this.
probably already know them, so you go forward, I'll be right back.
Okay, are you okay?
Could we take a recess all at
We
once?
should take a recess.
Yeah, I gotta go do.
Yeah.
You know,
Fine, we're gonna take the 5
And
minutes.
somebody has to assume share,
5 minutes.
Thank you, Al.
off the floor.
That's exactly right. On the CAO report. Thanks for that, Trina. Sorry. Yeah, no worries at all. I completely forgot as well.
We're gonna speak
I was
at
gonna go right to the next one as well.
We're gonna speak at chipmunk speed, people, because we still have an entire closed meeting to do. So I am going to call the meeting back to order, please.
Quickly,
Mr. Anderson, who said that?
he did when we walked in here tonight.
You jinxed
You
it.
actually
You
did,
jinxed it. Oh, there we go. Okay, Mr.
Okay,
Anderson,
just
if you
wanted to
could
bring
finish
that
your
forward.
wonderful report you spent so much diligent time doing.
Yes, and thank you, Mayor. So this is a good news story. This is called the Site C Regional Legacy Benefit Agreement. This was developed in 2013 when Site C was being envisioned and started, and it was an agreement that was put together by the regional district and all the member municipalities who were signatories to it. It's similar to the PRA, which was used to be called Fair Share. So basically, it's an agreement that said when BC Hydro, hence or vis-a-vis Site C, starts to produce power, municipalities and the regional district will get a grant, basically, an annual grant. And the grant formula is based on population and impact from the project. So who's Scoopy, because we have least amount of impact and the smallest amount of population, we have the lowest.
$10.
We will have the lowest amount, as opposed to Fort St. John, who's got the highest population and the most amount of impacts. So it's a formula, and it's kind of confusing. One's weighted at 60%, and the population is rated at 40. Anyway, they come up with a percentage of the whole. Out of the 100%, the total amount of money the BC Hydro is offering up to start with is about $2.3 million.
Not to us.
Not to us.
The total.
The total is about 2.3 million.
In total.
Our share is less than 2%. So which is paid every April after they start producing power, and they're starting to produce power with one generator now, and expect to be up and running by the end of the year, which means we could see a check of $45,000 to $50,000 in April of next year. Now, it is funded through the regional district, exactly the same as the PRA. The money goes directly to them, and then they do the calculation and forward of the money where it's a normal fair share grant or PRA grant. But it is indexed, it will go up every year, and it's good for 70 years. Nice. So it's a good news story.
Yes, Councillor Ravel.
So, this sounds very similar to the Columbia River Basin Trust. And that is why I think instead of, hear me out on this one, before everyone gets the money, what I would suggest is we should work together as a region, and instead of receiving this money year and year and year, we should actually invest it into a trust and then have it for future generations. I think that would be the wisest way to proceed with this money. Work with MDIT, work with the PRD, create something similar to the Columbia River Basin Trust, and then we would have it for future generations so that we could invest it and then have dividends paid out to the communities versus we get the money and we squander it, right? Instead of, if you have an investment portfolio and you receive your dividend payout, you should reinvest that. You don't take it out and squander it on a holiday. Obviously, we would put it into bleachers and athletic stuff and recreation. But I think the wisest thing to do, because we are not sustaining ourselves off of this currently, right? This would be new money. We should work as a region to create a trust so that for the next 70 years, this trust becomes funded. And we work with MDIT, and it gets dispersed back to our communities up here in our specific region. That is the wisest utilization of this money. That is what I've seen with the Columbia River Basin Trust. I don't know how we approach that, but that is the smartest way to utilize this.
I don't know how we'd approach it either, but I'll look into it, and you'll look into it, we'll all look into it, and
Yeah, Councillor Wall had a question.
So we haven't received this money before. I'm happy that we're going to be receiving between 40 and 50,000 in that ballpark. With our current financial situation and the projects that we have on the go, I do still agree with you, Councillor Rabble, but I think we could push ahead some of our more urgent current projects for in the next year or two, and then going forward and install that in the trust. Say like we have this money for 3 years, and then after the 3 years is up, that money goes into the trust. Something along those lines. Basically, pay off the credit card now before you invest it, you know.
Yes, Councillor Rowe.
We don't have a credit card, we haven't gone into debt, we can't go in debt.
I'm using that as an example.
I understand the analogy.
that.
What I'm saying is compound interest. What we've seen with the growth in NDIT, what we've seen in the growth of the Columbia River Basin Trust, what we've seen in other trusts, that is the smartest utilization. Do you want $1 today? Do you want your 1 marshmallow today? Or do you want your 2 marshmallows in 15 minutes, or 15 years? How about 20 marshmallows in 15 years? We must wait.
If I have to wait 15 years for 20 marshmallows, you guys are just making me hungry.
Okay, so we're all on a
So-
food thing today. So what I'm thinking, what we could do, Councillor.
We should engage the region.
Yes, because we're not the only ones that are part of this.
Mhm.
And this is an agreement that is established already between BC Hydro and the PRD and the different parties. It would have to then be a re-established agreement. You don't think so?
BC Hydro goes to RD. RD then can utilize NDIT potentially as one of the trust holders, and then they can work to invest it and then disperse.
Within our reach.
There's one line already defined, you just define the other lines.
I'm not quite too sure how to proceed with that one. We can definitely bring it up. I can bring it up to the PRD board. I can bring it up to Mr. Dolan's attention, see what he thinks about it, see if there's any interest in them looking into it. Once we get that money, what we decide to do with it, we have control over that. We don't have control over what the RD does with it. So if that is something that this council would like to look at. One thing I did actually think about that money, it would be handy to invest it into our asset management account. It is money we're not currently using, it is money that's coming in, and our asset management is definitely something that we are supposed to be paying into, and we have not been for ever. So that is something that I thought it could be a good utilization of it, and then that almost pays back to your future generations going forward. Rather than working with the RD, we control the money that we get, we invest it into our asset management, that eventually pays back into the community, and after 3 years, we've got like 150,000. And if we put that in a really, really great trust account, or put it into, I know we're not able to go to shared markets, it must be all private and closed, but we can work within interests and investments to make sure that the money does get a bit of a return. Yes, Councillor Wall.
You explained exactly what I was thinking in a much better way. So I appreciate that.
I'm a mind reader part-time.
Yes, because that's exactly, I was thinking, we have accounts that are quite low in context right now that we need a stockpile for in case things happen. And putting together a trust within the regional district will not happen overnight. So I'm thinking I think we should push for that trust idea that Councillor Rabble has.
Yeah, I think we can definitely.
In the meantime, I think we could be investing that money within the community, but not squandering it, not putting it towards things like that, putting it towards asset management, community engagement on long-term projects,
Yeah,
things like
that
that.
would be great. Councillor Whittle?
So I think this is a great conversation, but in the sake of time, can we move this to our strategic planning and budgeting session to have this discussion? It's
9:30.
turning to pumpkin soup.
That's what happens to after midnight.
Looks like something's going on.
Yeah, boys.
Just,
Yeah, Councillor
I
Rabble.
don't want this lost in the wind. The concept of compound interest, the concept of a larger portfolio of investments. We have an opportunity right now, before we become reliant on this money. Once we receive it, we will become reliant on it, and we will not look at this idea again. Trust me. We already did it with the PRA. We should.
We didn't have control of the PRA though. We were different people.
Well, now we're here.
That's
Anyways, I think It would return so much more. To accept the money now is to squander the 70% that you could have received. Or more. That's just a random number. But the idea of it is larger portfolio, larger investments, larger returns, smaller dividend payouts through grants for critical infrastructure. If we compile this wealth and invest it strategically and have it managed versus us managing pennies, allow everyone together to manage dollars with more coming back to us. I think it's something we should approach. I would therefore put the motion on the floor that we reach out to the PRRD, NDIT, and other municipalities that are impacted by this to begin discussions about the creation of a trust to safekeep, to safeguard these funds for future generations.
Second.
Okay, that has been seconded, so it's now on the floor. Any discussion regarding the motion? I'm just gonna give you a heads up, I am gonna vote opposed to it, not because I don't like your idea, but because I think it's a bit more tricky than how we're originally approaching it. What I'm getting from your motion is it's gonna we're gonna send a letter out. We're gonna phone them.
We're going to engage in negotiation. It starts at the RD table. It starts with working with NDIT. I've witnessed what has been possible with all our communities coming together, and I've seen what has been.
Is this through NDIT?
It's just a potential thing. It's just they are a trust, and they host pots of money already. They already have the infrastructure to manage this portfolio. It's just they already service this area, just like the Vancouver Island Trust. Just like the Columbia River Basin Trust, just like the South Okanagan Trust. Like, there are already examples, there are already roadmaps. This isn't groundbreaking. It's just we're investing a penny today so that the future generations have dollars.
I see what you're going for.
We would actually get more.
I'm still gonna vote opposed to it because I think we have far more control over our own money, and I love your idea. And I think that could be a great strat plan conversation when we're having that. At this point, I am going to vote opposed to it because I'm not quite understanding the full concept, but I do think that this would be a great strat plan budgeting conversation for 2025.
Grow a garden instead of just buying some groceries.
I totally get where your concept's coming from. Great conversation though. I do like it.
I believe where Councilor Rabble was coming from is when BC, quick history, very quick, when BC Rail dissolved, there was the option to have that money dispersed to municipalities in this way, but instead the idea was that it goes into a trust or grants for infrastructure projects, things like that. That is where NDIT comes from. And with the flooding of the Columbia River Valley through the 60s into the 90s, this is exactly what they did. They set this up. Now they have hundreds of millions of dollars to deal with. And instead of getting 45,000, the communities in the Columbia River Basin are getting millions.
Mm-hmm.
Because it has been 50 years since they started paying into it and all of these things. So yeah, we are in a crunch right now. I think in the next, this isn't gonna happen in the next 2 weeks. Like, this is gonna take 5-6 years to put in, I think. And it's, but I definitely agree with Councilor Rabble. Something like this, putting this into a trust and having it paid back through the dividends of it would be exponential compared to what we could receive now. I'm happy we're going to get it now, but I think 50 years ahead.
And that, full marks to this thing, I would never have thought of that. It might have some merit and some conversation, but I will tell you that I was around when Fair Share was developed. The first Fair Share agreement, it took a long time to get everybody to agree. It takes, when you get the regional district and all the municipalities together, and you gotta remember that Fort St. John gets a big chunk of this money. They get 34% of $2.4 million. And so, everybody's got different skin in the game. They're gonna have a whole pile of questions. This is gonna take a long time to get their heads around. Not to say it's not a good idea, but I think I agree with you. This will take, if you even get buy-in, because you're gonna have to get buy-in from all the other municipalities to see, and that takes some time to get that done.
The question is this worth a shot to even try to get buy-in on it? Right? Because 2% of 2.3 million is 45,000. What's 2% of $2 billion in 50 years? Right?
No, I'm not saying it doesn't have merit, don't get me wrong, but it's gonna take a lot of time and effort and lobby, and a lot of conversations at the table.
Yes, Councilor Rebel.
And that's the piece. And the other advantage we already have is there's already an equation. There's already a dispersal. There's already a guarantee of 7 years. There's already a guarantee of the money. And there's already a percentage assigned. If that's just hosted in a fund, then the dispersal just follows the same percentage. It's just money saved, invested, grown, dispersed versus money dispersed, spent.
No, I definitely think it's a great conversation. I definitely think it's a conversation that we can start. As I said, at this point in time, I think your motion it's just sort of putting, the cake in the whatever before we do the whatever. Those cake things.
Instead of eating the eggs, you hatch some chicken.
The cart before the horse.
Yeah, for sure.
Give it a shot.
Councillor Wall?
I still think that these discussions should be happening at the regional district level, which is what Councillor Rabel was asking for, prior to the initial dispersal of the funds.
Well, I'm gonna call the question. So, the motion on the floor is to reach out to NDIT, PRRD, and neighboring municipalities, see interest in creating a trust to invest this money for future generations. Am I correct?
Essentially.
Okay.
Similar to the Columbia River Trust.
Similar to the Columbia River Trust. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Are you in favor or opposed?
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Okay. And I am opposed.
It's worth a shot.
Yeah.
Worst they're gonna say is pound sand.
And then we get the money anyways.
Yeah, get the money in.
And then we build our own trust.
The mayor can sell anything.
Ice to an igloo.
Exhibit A.
Good.
You should just let off, get allergies to
Oh,
sleep.
I should just go home. Yeah.
Mayor, do you want me to note the opposition?
No, it's
So if I may, Mayor, Northwoods project update. You'll see some people out there kind of doing some work. I've been dealing with them on access to the property. They still want to try and get off the highway. I told them, well, that's not our jurisdiction, that's highways, and they didn't speak very favorably of that. Go to it. They filled out a service connection permit, they've got all the building permits in place, and they're gonna just basically do some site work, and if all goes well, they might even get some services in, but that's about it. I did, after talking with Councillor Wall, asked them if there was any truth to the rumors that as a reduction of the beds, if funding partners were getting a little nervous about funding the project if it was cut back, as you've indicated.
Thank you.
They did come back and say no. The only thing that's been reduced is the addiction beds that went from 10 to 5. I have the notes here, but basically all the other beds, so all the other treatments are the same. There's still 10 addiction treatment beds. So the detox beds went from 10 to 5, still the same 10 addiction treatment beds, and there's going to be 40 supportive housing units in there. So that's all the same, and all the funding partners are there, and they're proceeding. So I did that just based on what you were saying. So so hopefully we'll actually see some action up there.
Thank you for that. Really appreciate it.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you there, Mr. Anderson, for your update. Sparked some very interesting conversations. All right.
2 hours later.
2 hours later. Okay, it is finally Ms. McNair's moment to help us out. Well, kind of, sort of, maybe.
Well, maybe I can start as soon as I find which one is the actual. So that's
So,
there.
we're gonna move on to 13.2. So recommendation that council receives the financial report for August 2024 for information. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Wall, thank you very much. So, we'll go into the financial update. So there's the 2 schedules and then the update from Mr. McPhail.
So I can maybe, if you want, do you want me to start, or do you want to take a shot at it? Are you okay, or?
I guess I can, kind of.
Okay.
I believe in you there, Mrs. McNair.
Okay, so overall to date, financial results are in line to meet or exceed targets set out by 24-28 financial plan. And the details as below. The only real thing to point out would be that the capital expenses are considerably lower because of the lagoon not being
Dealt with.
well, that we haven't expensed too much to the lagoon.
Worded nicely.
Yeah, so we look like we've got a lot of money in there,
Yes.
there's still a lot of money to
But-
spend, it's waiting to be spent.
Mostly because of that, yes.
Yeah, so this large surplus that it does show, this 2 million,
And only half of the grant for that lagoon is in at this time. I think we've received 1.3 million to
Okay.
date.
so that's why it's so large though, is because we have that lagoon grant in there.
The remaining capital projects are pretty much completed.
Okay. Councillor Rabble?
Just for clarification, the 2024 budget is from January 1st, 24 to December 31st, 24, and the 2024 actuals are January 1st, 24 to August 31st, 24. So this is a half year. That's why it's so much lower for every single budget line, is because we're only half spent, really.
Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you.
But all in all, we're sitting good. Revenues are favorable and expenses are favorable, so
Yeah.
we're looking pretty good.
On track.
Councillor Wall?
I just want to note that I think our staff and us, we have done very well in this budget, because it looks like we're half spent and we're halfway through the year. It's not, we don't have any, I don't see any numbers in here that are jumping out at me going, whoa, we're way over budget. I think we're doing really good, so thank you, Ms. McNair, for handling these finances the way you have them. I'm quite impressed.
A wonderful job. Awesome
And
job.
everyone else who's been dealing with it.
Dealing with all the madness.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? No? Ms. McNair, after this portion, if you'd like to flee, you're more than welcome to. You do not have to stay here for the entire meeting.
Stay till midnight.
I know.
Oh,
Alrighty,
gosh.
all those in favor of accepting for information? And that is unanimous and carried. Okay, moving on to our action items. So as we get closer to the end of the year, our list does tend to get smaller. So it printed a bit funny this time, it's a bit smaller. Councilor Will's gonna have to pull out his glasses, where are they? Oh, you won't be able to read them.
Oh, that's why I couldn't see it. Sorry.
No, it's here. Oh, no.
Incorrect.
This is incorrect anyway. Never mind.
Well, what's incorrect about it?
Do you want me to go find the right one?
Yeah, sure. Well, anyway, I think our action.
These are 5 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's our, the OCP bit, which we're already dealing with. Council procedure bylaws to add sections to the bylaws, that's still kind of ongoing. Cemetery bylaw, that's looking into those capsulated thingies, remember? Thingies that,
To improve the cemetery bylaw to make it more, like people can use it for all these different things that we keep.
Oh, the headstone and.
Oh, to make it more like.
Yeah.
yes.
Clearly, it's not working out as intended because people keep having to make special requests, so. But also, is it in line with, you
No,
know?
this was about putting those thingies that people could put flowers on, what?
Columbarium?
Thank you. Help a girl out. Throw me a bone over here, guys.
I think there's also the kind
No,
of.
we didn't go forward with the headstone bit because at the end of the year, we've only had like 1 or 2 of them, and so to make it more free, we were concerned that people would start bringing in crazy things. So we kept that one on a by ask basis, but we are looking into the flower thingies that Ms. Hebert brought forward regarding the columbarium. Wow, I ate my Wheaties this morning like you ate yours yesterday.
There we go.
Okay, all right, well, anyway, that's basically what's going on with that. Ms. McNair, we'll see if she can find an updated one. I won't let her die on that hill though. Okay, and then we're gonna go to our capital and special project.
we are getting down to, you know, quite a few of these are also becoming completed. Our fire hydrant repairs are still, ongoing. I think we're about halfway done the last time I double checked. Yes, Counselor?
I just want to note that the yearly tree removal, remove dead trees as needed. It's $10,000 for trees. I'm glad to see that fixed. It's no longer $10,000 for a tree. So,
They pluralize trees now.
yes, pluralize the trees.
Nope, we
Good to
paid
go.
just
Thank you
this
for
one.
this.
Thank
Thank
you. Yeah, and then, the lagoon project again, that's ongoing. And then other things, so firefighter gear, I think, Miss McNair, do you know if they've applied for that or if we've heard anything about that? Replacement of their firefighter gear?
Yeah, he's in the process of, waiting for, to date, we've only spent about $3,000.
Okay, so that's ongoing.
Yeah.
Asset management will be completed as of October 1st, so that is almost, no, October 31st, sorry, thank you. That's according to the contract that we.
Yes.
And then, the OCP is, that's sort of holding up the updated zoning bylaws. So by the end of the year, the majority of these should be done, other than the few that have been moved into 2025. So awesome job, staff, for kicking butt and taking names on that one. Wonderful job. Let's move to council calendars. So, one I would like to have noted is, Mr. Anderson, when did we book our strategic planning session for the budget? Do you remember the date? I don't have my.
You know what? I don't have, it should be on your calendar there. I don't have my phone with me. I think it's a couple weeks from now.
I know, hang on, they're all looking.
Yeah.
I want it to be added to this calendar.
Yes.
There wasn't anybody.
There was, yeah. The 9th?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, that's what I thought.
What time?
It's at 7 p.m.
So for you, 6:40.
So,
5. Okay, got it.
I can't meet the 9th.
You can't make the 9th.
I thought I booked it for the following week.
Okay.
Okay. I'm in Prince George for a 3-day planning meeting with
With Northern Health, gotcha.
7th, 8th, and 9th.
Okay,
The 16th is a regular
the
meeting.
16th is a regular council meeting, guys. We're
Why
gonna
don't
be
we move
here.
it to the 23rd?
Thank you. Can we move it to the 23rd?
I make the motion to move it to the
Wait.
23rd.
Wait,
I better check mine.
I better check my phone. Hang on.
Yeah.
You made a motion and 2 people just left the room. They're in motion.
I call that a win. You know it's a good motion when they leave.
I swear there was some email about it.
Yeah, there was.
There was.
Go to your calendar and look at this night.
Okay, the 23rd is fine for me. I have a broadband internet
Oh,
meeting.
yeah,
in
there
the-
it is.
The 9th is fine.
But if our CAO can't be there, is not available for the 9th, I think we should make it so he
The
is.
23rd, yeah. 23rd is fine for me. Is it fine for you?
As of right now, yes.
Is it fine for you?
The 23rd, is good for me.
Perfect, we're gonna move our. Yeah, it's a Wednesday. We haven't.
It's
Okay.
a Wednesday, but I think the idea was we do some high-level strategic stuff and then it flows down. Chopping 2 weeks off that timeline, would that reduce, well, it would reduce the timeline for us to deal with the budget in a more strategic way, right?
No, we're actually still doing fine. We were way ahead of the game, as Ms. McNair is nodding, by doing it on the 9th. So
Yes.
we're actually completely.
We don't do budget till.
End of November, usually? Yeah, I'm getting the nod again, so.
But if I may, through all these different strategic discussions, governance discussions, UBCM, all this new information, essentially it's looking at the budget in a more strategic way. What services do we provide, to what level, to what standard? And I think I would also like to see a longer time period for services like the museum and the library, so that when we make these strategic decisions and expectations, that we give them an adequate amount of time to, respond and provide information so that we can make more informed decisions.
Well, their budgets aren't due until, when's the library budget due?
They start giving them in by November, don't they?
March?
Like, they approve.
No, March.
Or maybe, no, February?
Yeah, February-ish, I think the museum one is due, they normally do it in January.
Yeah.
That's a ton of time.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and I understand what you're saying. By doing it now, it's pretty typical of local government,
Yeah.
understanding that you have to have some sort of a provisional budget, you kind of pass January 1st, because your actual budget passes end of March, April, is when the budget actually passes. So you're actually working on a preliminary budget, a notional budget, if you will, from there to there. So anything you can do in the fall is perfect.
It's the best.
Yeah.
You know, October, November's great.
Perfect. Shannon, can you please, when you get an opportunity, Mr. Anderson, can you please change that invite to the 23rd
I
instead
will.
of the 9th? Thank you so much. I'm glad that works out great. Thank you guys. I appreciate you all.
Can you put it for 6:45? Then everybody will be here for 7.
Yeah. Assuming we get the right agenda.
All right, so that works for that. Did anybody else have anything else coming up?
Schnitzel night, October 11th.
Ooh, Schnitzel's October 11th. Yummy.
Well, since we're doing shameless plugs,
On Thanksgiving.
October
weekend.
10th, the search and rescue team is doing an open house, looking for new members. JT Safety Training in Dawson Creek.
Police liners and who's.
Search and rescue's actually their address and everything, they're based out of Goose Goopy.
Too old to drag people out of
Okay, Schnitzel night is happening October 11th. I'm excited. I'm totally gonna make that one. Okay, let's move on to November. Anything special happening in November? A Remembrance Day reminder that will be at the Legion, right? Hopefully, that is still going on this year, but it should be. That'll be at the Legion, so, you know, please show face as best as you can, and come on out. Anybody else have anything in November?
I will be at the Remembrance Day ceremony on the 11th, but I will not be there representing the village.
No, you'll be there as search and rescue, right?
I will actually be there as well, but also not representing the village.
That's a good point.
I will be running it.
Okay, all right, sounds good, so that's our only reminder for November. Perfect, all right, so we're gonna move on to councilors' reports. Councilor Johnston, what have you been up to?
Between special meetings, UBCM,
And
and the Doig. We were out at the Doig last week.
Yeah.
Awesome. Beautiful place out there. I think we accomplished what we wanted to at UBCM. I think it was a really good conference. And that's about all I've got.
Okay, perfect, Councilor Ravel.
Okay, so, yes, I attended similar various special meetings, closed ones and whatnot over the last several Wednesdays. I did attend UBCM, everyone, you know, all 5 of us were at UBCM. I am currently preparing a report for UBCM. I do not have it ready right now. I didn't want to rush it to, you know, I really think having the opportunity to do this the second time was fantastic. The first time was basically just drinking from the fire hose, figuring out what is going on, what's necessary, what isn't necessary. This time around, with a slightly more experience, I was able to go in and direct my attention to what's essential, and I think we've done some really good work. I want to give a fulfilled report, and that's why I want to present that next meeting. I was unable to attend the Doig meeting because it conflicted with my employment. So I do apologize for that. I hear it was extremely fruitful, and I wish that this process of engagement with best of success. There was a library meeting while I was at UBCM. We're awaiting the minutes. There's nothing at this time to report, except of course they are working for utilizing that grant and hosting the regular programming. In the spirit of full disclosure, this weekend I was elected the treasurer of the Goose Goopy Legion branch number 34. If there is something to do with financial support of the Legion, I will recuse myself because I believe it to be a conflict of interest. I simply want to report that to you folks to notify you that there is another community service that I'm a part of now. Lots to come.
Perfect, sounds good. Councillor Wall, what you been up to?
Oh, I attended both special meetings. I think they went very well, very productive. The harvest tea for the museum, I was not able to attend as I was driving down to UBCM, but it apparently went very well as well. Legion. So I've been elected president of the Legion, so I can no longer be the liaison in that regard. So at their last meeting, this is my last Legion report, I guess. The Legion has 21 new members. They held their AGM.
21?
Yes, 21 new members from the Legion. Fantastic. Lots of support from the community. Thank you. I want to thank the community for electing me their president of the Legion. I'm surprised, I'm not a vet or anything, so. That's okay.
Modern era, eh?
Yeah, modern era, anything can happen. UBCM was fantastic. Spoke with Ministry of Environment, or people from the Ministry of Environment, Health. Too many conversations to list off the top of my head. I am working on a report similar to Councillor Rabel. However, it is not complete at this time. I've been feeling unwell. I was hoping to have it done, but it's not. So I'll bring that for you at the next meeting. I'm going to try to make it not too lengthy, but very few fruitful conversations, specifically from the Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Health, which we're all attending those meeting with them. And I'm glad to see that some of these projects are moving forward because of these conversations that we had there. Really happy we all showed up as well and created a united voice. Oh, also the resolution that we brought in passed at UBCM. I was disappointed that I didn't get to speak on it because it just kind of passed as a block, but sometimes less is more.
Right?
And I did run into people from Vernon regarding their motion, and I don't know how to say this nicely, so I won't say it, but I did speak with them about it. About what?
The ridiculousness.
Yes, about stopping oil and gas completely. I was not too impressed, and I made it very well known that I was not too impressed about that. So.
Okay, wonderful. Councillor Whittle, what have you been up to?
I attended UBCM. While I was there, I attended the Emergency Management and Disasters Act seminar with some updates on EDMA, nothing super new. Also attended one of the conferences on resources within the province, which turned into talking about forestry, because apparently that's the only resource in BC according to the rest of the province.
That's what we did.
I was disappointed with that.
Yeah.
And but there was really good information that came from the economist that was there. Some frightening news from him when he was talking about the potential decrease in household income and looking at the impacts of the climate change and the legislation around that. And how that's potentially affecting people, so that was a little scary. Yeah, other than that, it was great. I got to touch base with other councillors from neighboring municipalities, touch base with a couple of the regional district directors while we were down there as well. We also had a meeting with Northern Health in the Ministry of Health to advocate for some needs for Goose Cooping. And yeah, generally enjoyed the conference. It was definitely a good experience. I did not like the fact that they put beats on everything. Craig, just get that on the record. And yeah, no, it was a good, very good conference. Good learning opportunities. Some good networking opportunities. I also attended a meeting with Doigus last week, which was actually really cool. First time I had actually got the opportunity to be out there, and got to learn more about the history about the area. And actually, we were gifted some books that they had written up. And actually, for somebody that doesn't read much other than agendas or technical manuals, I've actually sat down and started reading it because it's all about local history. So it's actually quite interesting, especially once we found the local, like where the immediate local connection was. It was very interesting for me. Other than that, attended some special meetings, and yeah, that's about it.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to run through mine super fast. I've already emailed it to the CO, but I've actually just realized I missed a few things, so I've added it in, so I will re-email it to you.
I apologize. I'm just going to step out because I have to cough quite a bit.
No worries.
I'm not trying to miss your report.
Tis the season.
Okay, so September 6th, I met with the Dawson Creek Society for Community Living regarding seniors aging in place programs in Goose Cooping. I'm hoping that they will have something in front of council in the coming weeks. September 10th, I checked in with the staff and did an overall update on how things are going. September 11th, I held a closed meeting of council. September 12th, I attended the PRD meeting. We did receive an update from Northern Health during that meeting on the hospital closures. I was hoping to have that information to council by this meeting, but I'm waiting on approval by Northern Health to get access to their slideshow, so I'll have to get back to you ASAP. But they did just release the minutes to go for approval on this next PRD meeting, so I may just give you guys the minutes of that meeting. September 13th, I attended an NDIT meeting. September 15th, I attended the Museum Harvest Tea. Wonderful turnout by the community. They sold all their baked goods. Their silent auction was phenomenal. Oh yeah, I won something and somebody grabbed it for me. I have to go find them. I won something. I forget what it was. A planter with a gnome, I think. Very, very excited. So, I know I'm like an old lady. Don't even start. So the Harvest Tea was an absolute success. Les and everybody were super, super happy. I got to see some of my people I only see once every year during Harvest Tea, so it's nice. September 16th to the 20th, of course, was the UBCM. I have completed my UBCM report and I will be emailing it out to everybody. Mr. Stavro, if you could please include my UBCM report in the minutes of this agenda, I would appreciate it. UBCM was extremely successful. I very much categorized everything sort of by day. So our first day there on the 16th, I went to the What's Next for Housing sessions, as well as Changing Climate, Rising Costs. This is where they talked about the financial impact of climate change and whether it will be flood or fire, which we have seen more throughout the province. They talked about planning for climate change and what we can do as communities, and how communities need to plan resilience and resource allocation. That brought up a bunch of different questions that I definitely have for staff and for us coming into budget season. I met with the Ministry of Forest regarding forest permits and sustainable allowable cut with the PRRD. That went really, really well. Some of the points that were made by the minister at that point in time was that permitting is taking up to 2 years to receive. Some permitting issues are a result of the Supreme Court treaty agreement, is what the forestry minister had said. Basically, what's going on is that they're still in negotiations with many of their First Nations, just trying to find what system works for everybody, and then that's causing a bit of a backlog. So the minister did say that that is something they are aware of, and they're absolutely working on it. The minister did express shock and sadness to see the closure of the Canfor mill in Fort St. John, and had actually planned on meeting with Canfor to find out why the closure had happened, seeing as they did have all the permitting and tenders available to deal with the burnt wood. And he was very surprised to see that Canfor had closed. The ministry is currently looking to reach out, as I said, to Canfor to find out what's going on and whether or not, because if they hang on to those tenders, the allowable cut, it means that wood will not be harvested or dealt with, and they will affect that resource around Donny Creek. And then currently there are no projects for the annual allowable cut to come down from the northern part of British Columbia, and currently the ministry is working on sustainable forest management plans for northeastern BC. Now as Canfor is closed, as I said, they're looking into them selling those permits. Currently the ministry is looking to get back their permitting from Canfor so that they are able to sell it out to other forestry businesses in British Columbia. On September 17th, I attended the Northeastern BC Roundtable, where during this meeting I had an opportunity to meet with many of our oil and gas resource sectors to discuss sustainability and the future of the resource sector in northern BC. A big topic of that meeting, once again, was permitting, as well as capacity issues on all level of government affecting what's currently happening in oil and gas. And they asked all of us at the Northeastern Roundtable if we could help educate during the UBCM. Obviously, the Vernon resolution to not allow oil and gas sector to pay into municipalities or the UBCM to help fund these conferences was a big topic of conversation. Our oil and gas sector partners did ask that we try to educate our southern friends and partners on the fact that, they are paying into the communities such as food banks and parks and everything to help the sustainability of the community, not for some terrible, evil, world ruining, environmental destroying reason. So, anyway, that was one of the conversations. I'm not gonna go over my entire report, it's 7 pages long, so I'm not gonna read the whole damn thing. It's huge. So I will put that in an email, you guys can all read it later. With that though, I would like to make a motion that we send out the Vernon resolution and our opposition letter to the UBCM Executive Board and all the neighboring municipalities, as that resolution did not make it to the floor. And so it now is up to the Executive Board to decide whether or not it passes. So, can I get a seconder on the motion to send out? Councillor Wall, thank you.
I'm already aware that I'm not in favor.
Yeah, that's basically our only option. We've lost our voice, so we must put it in this way. I'm hoping by sending it to the neighboring municipalities that they will send out letters of opposition as well, and we can get that.
Could we request with our letter of opposition that they also send in letters of opposition?
Yes, I think that that's a very good idea too. Yeah.
Context accompanying it, yeah.
Endorsement.
Yeah.
Could we send it to our, not just our neighboring municipalities, but NCLGA members? Would that be appropriate?
Sure, I mean, it's another avenue for you, but I'd look to you, it's up to council.
I'm comfortable with that friendly amendment, totally. Let's send it to everybody in it.
Send it to NCLGA, let's send it up to everybody who see it.
That's a bit
There's
far.
some crazy opinions that come out of some of those more southern
So we will
municipalities.
send it,
So
we will send it to the executive UBCM Executive Board, the neighboring municipalities, and NCLGA municipalities as well. NCLGA, yes. Sound good? Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous and carried, thank you very much. September 23rd, I checked in with staff and gave updates about UBCM, and we kind of did like a big overall, I was gone for a week, how was your life? This is what mine was like. September 27th, attended the community-to-community meeting in Doig River. It was a wonderful day spent learning about the shared history between Pouce-Coupe and Doig River. We also had the opportunity to present a beautifully hand-painted rock to local, that was painted by a local Pouce-Coupe community member, and I showed her the picture, and she was quite tickled pink about it. To the eldest member of the Pouce-Coupe family. September 26th, I met with Kendra from Northern Health to connect on Northern Health needs in the community and how Pouce-Coupe can play a role in attracting more doctors and nurses to the area. I was also able to provide a bit of an update to her on the Northern Winds Wellness Center. September 27th, I met with Jennifer from the Northeastern BC Community Foundation regarding grants, funding, and our relationship and input with Community Futures. September 28th, I attended the Northern Lights College Rodeo as a special guest. September 29th, I attended the Legion AGM. This is why I'm sick, as you can all see. I've been everywhere this past week. I attended the AGM for Legion, and it was an amazing turnout by members of the community, and I'm so thankful for everybody who came. And then October 1st, I held a closed special meeting. So I will send all that in an email to our CO, and I will send my report for UBCM to all of you and have it included in the minutes. So, question period, none, in camera. So the council moves to the in camera as per section 91C and M of the community charter. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Woodall. Discussion? All those in favor?
Yeah.
Carried. Okay.
Unanimous.
Now, somebody at UBCM cornered me, we were talking about.
Thank you, Trina.
With the group.
Cornered you about the
Oh, that's
kids.
right, for them.
Yeah.
They moved it, it was all about money.
Shannon.
This is
That's Jana.
Missouri, it was one of those two, that the guy just moved it because the labor was a quarter of the cost.
I did.
They were,
It was all money.
We were having,
It was all money.
Can you text me that picture?
Sure, it's Missouri or Mississippi, one of those two.
yeah, it was Missouri.
I know, I
And
may
it was
post
because
it
the
tomorrow.
cost was just a
forgetting.
fraction.
Are we going back out there again eventually?
They wanna
that's
come
the
flat.
chief there.
Cool. Who's that?
Well, I feel like.
Oh, I wish I could.
Yeah.
You fancy man.
Oh, actually,
Yeah, we got swag.
actually-
They even got doink socks.
Ooh!
I know.
Is this?
Oh, yeah, no. Hey, you want a pair of doink socks?
I made the comment to the girl.
Yes, it's in your box. It's right here, honey.
And she's like, actually, we do. She's like, I got a couple pairs left.
Let's have a look at it.
You two are sharing. These are gifts
Well,
from Doyle.
Oh, you guys are in the other room.
We don't
need 2 copies. I know.
I got 2.